Barbados. Welcome to Barbados. Hey.
Welcome to Barbados, where the only wildlife you got to worry about is mosquitoes, sandflies, flying roaches, and centipedes, red stinging bees, and yard fowls of the yellow-breasted variety. Where the standard of living is island, but the cost of living continental. Where you wouldn't tell nobody nothing, but the place too small for anything to be held confidential. Where you could explore the whole island for the cost of one day's rental and a full tank of petrol. But nobody ain't gassing you up, you will get dosing cuss first. We just walk up the best and we just behave the worst. A drive in a ZR could feel like a ride in a hearse. Surrounded by water in St. Lucie, but you can still get a terms. Welcome to Barbados, where the literacy rate so high, we can't even open the eye to read the writing on the wall. The smoke's a ticket blocking the screen, so we can't even tell what time it is to calculate the rate of the fall.
Welcome to Barbados.
Welcome to Barbados.
Welcome to Barbados. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure you got the cure. For sure you got the cure. For sure you got the cure. Welcome to Barbados. Welcome to Barbados. Welcome to Barbados. Welcome to Barbados. 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 How I love you. Tell me why I love you so. Barbados. How do I love you so? My paradise island home. I love you, I love you, love you, Barbados. L-O-V-E-B-A-R-B-A-D-O-S. I love you, Barbados. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we love you, Barbados. My goodness. Wow. Lovely introduction there. We love Barbados. We are absolutely enjoying this great song that we were just listening to. All right. Now, are you hearing me okay? Just want to make sure you're picking me up okay out there. Because I'm getting a little bit of an echo, and let me be sure. Okay, good. I got it. I got it because I had another window open, watching the budget. And I forgot to turn it off. So thanks, guys, for confirming you hear me good and loud and clear. And I just want to welcome you to the Monday night Marcia Weeks show. And I am Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols. Many of you know me over the last several months, and it's a pleasure of mine to host the show on Mondays particularly, and during the time that Marcia was off. And it's been a joy, a real pleasure to be able to connect with you guys and, of course, share with you each Monday evening. And I want to say how thankful I am for the opportunity to do that. Now, I see already we're up to 269 folk. And we, of course, as you know, once we get past that 200 mark, we are going to be moving the national anthem. So, Dave, honor us, please, with the national anthem of Barbados. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our national pledge as we speak it together. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Well, I don't know why they would choose to have the budget presentation on the night or on the day that I will be hosting this show. Oh my goodness. I have sat and I have listened and I have watched. I've made a few notes. But the one thing I will say is that I'm going to be very cautious regarding my comments because uh, I certainly do not want to steal the leader of the opposition's thunder when he is scheduled to respond tomorrow evening. I believe it would be. Now, last week, I think it was, I gave a viewing to the President Trump's speech to the joint gathering of the Congress and the Senate, which they said turned out to be 90 minutes, the longest speech by a president in history. I wonder what would be the record for here in Barbados, because I believe that Minister Strawn's speech was at least 4 hours. And the reason I think I can comfortably say that is I believe he should have begun around 3. I didn't actually see him from the very start, but he ended he ended just before I came on, right a couple of minutes before we came on tonight, close to 4 hours. So I tell you, I don't know. It would be interesting to know how it compares to speeches from before. Now, given that the leader of the opposition is going to be responding tomorrow, I am still going to make a couple of comments, all right? Permit me to do so. First of all, let me comment with regards to the closing comments of Minister Strawn. And I was smiling when I heard him quote the second verse of the national anthem and amended it to 400 years, in that he spoke of the 60th, I think, anniversary of independence that we will be celebrating this year. So clearly, November the 30th will be Independence Day and not Republic Day by virtue of the minister's own admission. And I want to remind all of us, and him included, that the Lord has been the people's guide, not the government's. Okay, you gotta read the speech accurately. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 400 years. He said, for past 400 years. That's the first thing I want to just comment on, because I hope all of the members of parliament heard what he said. The Lord has been the people's guide, not the government's. Now, scripture tells me I should pray for the government, and I concur with scripture, but the people's guide. That's why you have to be so careful in terms of how you deal with the people. And I made a note here, even before the budget began, that one of the things that I believe we are experiencing is the fact that regardless of the activism and the concerns expressed by civil society in Barbados, government seems hell-bent on doing whatever it wants to do regardless of what the people have to say. And that is a very concerning factor, because when the vote was given to this government in 2018 and again in 2022, the people elected them to represent the people. And I want us to be clear with regards to this matter. It doesn't suggest or mean by any stretch of the imagination that persons, government cannot advance matters and engage matters that they believe are for the benefit of the people. But when we are dealing with major changes on a national level, vis-a-vis the cybercrime bill, child protection bill, the development of the entire Bay Street down through Bridgetown and Pierhead and the Holetown and GIBBS Gully area, those, and Bathsheba and Joe's River, those are areas that are significant, in terms of how we engage that process of the people. And it's important, I believe, that we be careful how we express ourselves relative to these matters. But it would appear to me, from listening to the expressions of several different ministers, including the Minister of Housing, and who is now, let me see what he is now. I have to be sure I get this correct. I think he is now the Minister of Planning and Development and Rural and Urban Development. That in the Prime Minister's office. I don't know if that means that he has now taken over that responsibility from the Prime Minister. Nevertheless, what I will say is that it seems to me to be a bit concerning that we are hearing so many purchasers and buyers and developers of that particular site in Holetown. I thought it was a international individual. I thought it was a international individual that had bought the area there, and then I hear it is the ICBL that is investing 100 million, 80 million, I can't remember the figure exactly, in the development. So what is it? Who is it that is going to be doing so? And to even hear the minister, the Honorable Ryan Strawn, speak to the heritage of our country and the necessity to preserve it in the face of these pending abuses of the civil society of Barbados, I believe is a matter of concern. So that's just a couple of the comments, and I'm going to make a couple others in the matter of what we have received a few moments ago. One thing that caught my attention also was the development of these areas to which I have referred in light of the so-called climate change matter. I heard several references to climate change affecting even our health as elderly persons and so on. And I'm looking very carefully into it. Barbados, I don't know. Our temperatures have changed significantly in Barbados. And some time ago, last year, I went through the hurricane number of hurricanes over the last 50 years to show that there was no significant change in any of these matters. And so I am questioning this whole matter of the climate change and climate aspects as it relates to Barbados disposing of valuable oceanfront property, where if we have all of this climate change and all of this uncertainty as to what is going to be happening where the climate is concerned. We talk about rising, and it's been purported as a part of the rising level of the ocean levels rising. Why are then we looking to construct so many major properties and developments on the coast? So that was a matter that I made a note of. In addressing the matter of gun violence in Barbados, I heard the minister make reference to the issue being spurred on as a result of the Second Amendment in the USA. Well, I am sorry, I don't agree, because the Second Amendment in the USA cannot possibly be the reason that we are seeing the massive influx of illegal guns and the use of illegal weapons in Barbados. The Second Amendment is not an illegal amendment. It does not make provision to people just to get guns. You have to go through checks and balances. You have to apply. You have to go purchase it. And from what I understand, observing the statistics and the information, even within the context of the US, much of the gun violence and criminal activity is perpetrated by illegal guns. So the issue is not the Second Amendment. The issue is the illegal guns. That's what it is. How are guns getting into this country? Even if it is, and even if you could point to the Second Amendment, they don't put guns in here. The Second Amendment doesn't put guns in Barbados. Somehow, importers of illegal weapons are getting them into the country through one of 4 or 5 sources, either through the airport, either through the seaport, either through Port Ferdinand, either through the other one up there by Ammon Beach, Port St. Charles, or along the coastline of this country. Those are possibly, I can't think of others. I don't think there are any airplanes flying over the country and dropping anything, not that I am aware of. But as far as I'm aware, the issue we have is illegal guns. How are they getting into this country? That is what the government should have addressed tonight in the budget. That's one of my additional comments. Additionally to that, I actually was quite pleasantly surprised to hear the minister admit concerning the cost of living challenges for Barbadians. And yet, I heard little, and of course I stand to be corrected, but I heard little purported to ease the day-to-day strain of the ordinary Barbadians as it relates to payment of bills. I understand there has been no change to the value-added tax reduction on electric bills, but electric bills are still quite high given the Fair Trade Commission's approval of an increased rate. I thought I might have heard something that would seek to reduce that aspect of cost to Barbadians. Matters to do with the payment of phone bills, matters to do with the reduction on bottled gas and things that ordinary Barbadians use every day, and going into the supermarkets to buy their groceries every day. Now, people will tell me quickly, come on, Rev, it was a great speech and you're just picking at little things. No, I'm not picking at little things. I am pointing out where the buck hits, where it impacts people. I thank you for all of the wonderful rhetoric, but you see, people's lives are not eased by rhetoric. It is eased by decisive action to help to reduce the cost of living, since the minister did admit the increase in the cost of living in the country. And and he made this comment about the government upping the thing. I heard it and I noted, but if you any increased costs, because he's upping the thing relative, I think, to increase wages and so forth for public servants and so on. But, and you know, the thing about it is that no merchant in this country absorbs the increasing costs in anything. I heard the reduction, or sorry, I heard an imposition of 20% tax, a 20% excise tax, I believe it is, on a number of things that would be including, let me see if I can just, high salt things like Pringles, Lay's, salted nuts, corn curls, hot dogs, cheesy, salt. I want to ask a question. Can somebody provide me with the studies and the statistical information that verifies this decision? Or is this just one of these fly-by-night things that we are pulling out of the hat because we feel that there's too much use of salt in the items in our society? How about banning salt altogether, or increasing the tax on salt imported into the country? You see, just like we did in the pandemic, there was no local statistical information provided, no work done in this country concerning the pandemic. It was all imported from overseas. And I realize, based on a comment that one of their ministers made last week, where he chastised the marketing companies in Barbados for promoting unhealthy foods to children, and when he was taken to task on it, sought to deflect that criticism by suggesting that he was really referring to international distributors and so on. But can anybody tell me what international distributor do we have distributing these things in the country? They are marketed here by Barbadian or by companies in Barbados and sold by Barbadian companies in Barbados. So I couldn't grasp how the minister could attempt to deflect the criticism with regards to the marketing agencies where this matter is concerned. I also noted the minister referring to, changes of things in Barbados to bring us in line with the 21st century. Sir, may I suggest to you that the issue in Barbados, as I have spoken with many international persons over in the Cayman Islands and in St. Lucia, the issue in Barbados is not whether we are coming in line with the AI and in line with all the new technology and all of that stuff. The issue in Barbados is the attitude of our workers, the attitude of government workers up to today. I won't call the name of the government agency I went into. And my number was called, and I sat at the desk, and the woman looked at me like I had disturbed her morning. Like I was supposed to have brought her breakfast, but I didn't. And her thing was, how can I help you? And I'm sitting there, no, good morning. What may I do for you? No smile, straight face. How can I help you? Well, I told her what I wanted to do. At least as I was leaving, I said to her, thank you so very much. She said, you're welcome. And I said, have a good day. And she said, you too. But if you had seen her face, well, then, if you could have done it through some other agency, you probably would have. So the issue, sir, in Barbados, the reason so many international companies are bypassing setting up their offshore facilities here is not our inability to provide the technological prowess and so forth. It is the attitude of Barbadian workers. So if we're going to improve the services in this country, we have to get about improving the attitude, the service industry, the people who are sitting across the counter from you, from Kentucky back to the banks. All of them need to have a significant improvement in their attitudes. And probably one of my final comments was, I hope that it was a slip of the tongue when in reference to scams and so on, the minister said that if it was so easy, he would put up $100 million so he could get $500 million by Friday. And I thought to myself, well, I hope it's a slip of the tongue, because I would like to know how Minister Strawn, on a minister's salary, was capable of acquiring $100 million since he has been in Parliament. I just made a note of that, so I hope that it was a slip of the tongue. Now, let me close my comments here as I await my first guess. I'm just going to make this comment. I don't know, but I don't want to be overly unfair to the goodly gentleman. I really don't want to be. But given that I actually saw the Prime Minister in Parliament this evening, and given the type of yeah, I hope so, Easy D. That's why I said it. I hope it was a slip of the tongue. Given the manner in which the goodly minister delivered this budget, I was left to actually believe that he did not see this before he read it in Parliament. I mean, I want to believe that if you have not had any training in public speaking prior to becoming a politician and going into Parliament, I want to believe that at least you would learn something over the past several years. When I started to minister and preach, I garnished a lot of public speaking assistance from different books and speakers around the world to be able to deliver. And to be honest with you, Mr. Strawn, the Honorable Minister Strawn, I was doubtful given the way in which you delivered this speech. It seemed to me that it was prepared for someone else. I don't know. I am just giving you my opinion, okay? But it would seem to me that it was prepared for somebody else to share. All right? It was apparently, and you know, I've prepared every single message. I don't let anybody write a speech for me. No one. Even when I have to present my own financial report to our ministry and our church, I always prepare it myself. And you can tell from my years of experience, I can address subjects on the fly, and I can do the research, and I can speak to matters fluently and you know, without any issues. And so I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully he was the person who prepared it. Well, those are my opening comments. There are a number of other things that I can share with you, but you know, we want to move on in the show tonight, and so I'm going to move to the next segment, which is to be the mic on the move, the GIBBS' Roadside Parliament that was hosted by the Marcia Weeks show on Sunday evening, 2 p.m., Sunday afternoon, at the GIBBS' Gully. And unfortunately, again, the time makes it quite difficult for me to be able to get to these roadside parliaments at that time of the evening. But I understand there was a good attendance nevertheless, and I'm so glad to hear that. But this was the time for the people of Barbados to express themselves. And so I'm going to ask Dave to take us to GIBBS' Gully so that we can share what occurred on Sunday evening.
People, you know, last time I used this mic, I was 67. And now that I'm using the mic, I'm 68. So that would mean that I'm here, or is that correct? Is that correct? Lie.
How old are you? How old are you?
You see, that is how people are deceived. Because mathematically, when you subtract 67 from 68, you get 1. But that doesn't mean that between the last time I spoke and now is a year. So that's incorrect. That's what we call deception. That's a lie. My girlfriend there says she's thinking a year. Because my words deceive you. They sound sweet. The last time I was 67, now I am 68. What's the difference? 1. But does that mean that the distance or the time between the last time I spoke and now is a year? No. Lie. Do you get? Do you get? Lie. Australian came to Joseph with Finisterre, says we only want to put up the wall to swap from its collapsing. Lie. Senator Haynes, former Senator Haynes, no Dr. Senator. Is that correct? No. That's also another lie, because she is no longer senator here in this country, Barbados, because of one person. We call her a man. Second Chronicles, chapter 20 tells us that the Lord said to Jehoshaphat, when all the army stood up, and he saw the potential for destruction, as all the other speakers would have said before, I want to say to you, just as the Lord said to Jehoshaphat, stand still and see the destruction. We heard of Elon Musk, who thinks within himself that all of his financial potential, he can control this world. I realized that he sent up a rocket that cost millions of dollars. What happened to it? It came down. That was number 1. He sent up another rocket that cost millions of dollars. And what happened to it? It came down. I want to say to Mia one morning that she too will come down. Because of all these lies that are going on. I said sometime ago, I saw what was going on down in St. Lucie by River Bay. I said this is a wonderful idea. Let me go home. Let me leave all the concrete jungle in Washington, D.C. and return to Barbados, because this is a wonderful idea. But when I came here and realized the truth behind it, that 67 from 68 is not necessarily 1. That is a lie. And all that Mia is seeking to demonstrate on this country now are all lies. When we go to trades, we know that trades in itself is an ocean just waiting to be filled with water. Just a strong rainy season, and what they're intending to do with us is that they will take all Bajans in the police station. I was there a few years ago. All of our children in the library. All the folk in the courts. In trains. And then a burst of rain comes down. And what happens to all of us? We are flooded out. That's the intent. The intent is to move all of us from the periphery of Barbados into the inlands so that she can occupy all the external peripheries of this country. I want to say to you, be conscious. Just as Jehoshaphat said, stand still realize what is happening in the Barbados Labour Party. I want for you to pick up and be conscious of the stance and the courage that Dr. Haynes took. And I want to commend her because, as I will say to all of people, I am 80. The Lord said 10. And as I would have said before, but I had to say to Victor Young, that, I'm no longer in the departure lounge. The flight canceled, so I'm still here. So just remember that Senator Haynes took a stance in Parliament, and she said, this is my gut feeling. This is my gut feeling that when I drive from Folkestone to Batsrock, I can stop my vehicle, park in comfort, get out and go and have a bath on the West Coast, the most calm beach in this country. I can do it. She wanted to say to the whole of Barbados, I must clear my conscience. This is not right. And because of her stance to stand up and speak proof into existence, she was fired. That, again, will be another life in this country. Understand that Hezekiah said that there will come a time after you would have stepped on to so many flights, so many jets, going to Africa, United States, Australia, and all the above, that there will come a time when you close your eyes, that the children of this country, our future generation, will suffer. Hezekiah had to understand that destruction will come. It will come in 2025, but it will come. And all of your children and grandchildren, because of the decision you made today, they will suffer tomorrow. Me don't seem to understand that. Well, that is a wonderful question. That is a wonderful question. I would traverse this country and be conscious of a few things. A few years back, when I stood up in Joseph, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about Victor Lewis. I was conscious of all those children at St. Elizabeth Primary, at St. Joseph Primary, at all the other primary schools and secondary schools. I spent 28 years in teaching, and my extracurricular was fishing. Folks found themselves with me at the beach, in the gullies, enjoying themselves. I heard a statement just now that I am very conscious of, and I want to bring it to your attention because it puzzled me. We in St. Joseph, we took a stance. And our stance was not but wait. It wasn't just Victor Lewis, but it was 30 more of us who put pen to paper, and now our statements, our affidavits are before the court. So we are continuing to stand still. But we are conscious of the fact that 24/7, every single Barbadian must have the right to go into Joseph Gully anytime and traverse and enjoy and relax yourself from any attitude where individuals want to subject you to something different. You must enjoy the cup and saucer 24/7. You must enjoy Joseph 24/7. I heard a statement earlier that I want to bring to your attention. there's something called prescriptive rights. This is the sanctuary of GIBBS Gully. This is where they sit back and relax. In St. Joseph, we sit back and relax not only at Bathsheba, but in Jones River, in Teacup and Saucer. I was standing there just now, and I listened to the symphony of these trees. When you hear the wind blow, you can hear the seeds in the trees just rattling. When I sit down, when I stood up there just now and look across at this tree and just feel the breeze coming across, you don't want to go in a house. You want to come up here and stand up under these trees and relax. This is something that the people of GIBBS Gully have engaged in for years. No manager can come here and say to the folks at GIBBS Gully that you cannot take a tour of something that you were doing from time immemorial. They can't do that. Not from here. The only way that a restriction can be given to you from accessing these premises, there must be a fence. Is there a fence? Am I saying a fence? There's no fence. So you cannot restrict anyone from crossing these grounds and doing something that you have been doing from time immemorial. So I want to say to the folks at GIBBS Gully that this is your wellness sanctuary. You must do all in your power to retain it. You are not going out there in battle with anyone. We are not here to fight. We are here to live in peace. But we need to be conscious of these few things. Just as Senator Haynes said in Parliament, we need to retain a green space, not for our family, but for generations to come. I would want to say to the folks at GIBBS Gully, take a stance that you must retain for your people, for your children, for your grandchildren, and for your community, that this GIBBS Gully that you have used from time immemorial, it is part of your prescriptive rights to have access to it 24/7 by you, by your families, by your grandchildren, by your great-grands, and from future generations for you to have free and safe access to these facilities. Take a stance, and the folks from Joseph will continue to support you in your fight. Thank you very much.
When I wake up in the morning and I see the sun.
Well, 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 I tell you, you see, this is why I keep saying that, you know, sometimes I wonder if people give any thought before they act, before you make a decision. You know, when a government is sitting down and developing policy and making decisions, do you stop for a moment to understand and appreciate the ramifications of your decisions? Because you're in office for 5 years, at least that's what it's supposed to be. And when you leave office, whatever you've done in office often cannot be reversed. And as a result of that, I believe that given the current state of Barbados, being a republic of the people, by the people, for the people, that the people should be engaged before major decisions are made. I'm not talking about changing a tax on corn curls and Pringles and so on, which incidentally, that 20% increase in excise tax is actually going to be passed on. Okay, that's going to be passed on. But decisions, major decisions such as what we are seeing being proposed here at GIBBS Beach and at Holetown, you know, last week, Monday, we engaged this aspect of the new colonialism. Are we being recolonized again? And I have my colleague and friend, I almost called him Dr. Nigel Newton. I don't know, Nigel, if you are in a position to pop your camera on or not, but that's fine. Not a problem at all. Excuse me. But I want to welcome you to the show tonight, Nigel. as we talk about this whole aspect, what I call the disposal of Barbadians' assets, big assets, what we as a people possess. Excuse me, because after all, it is not the possession of the government. It is the possession of the people of Barbados. The man on the street, in the housing development, wherever it is, the entire country is the possession of the people of Barbados. So, good evening, Nigel, and welcome. Good to see you again. We had an interesting meeting just a couple of days ago, an enjoyable time that we were able to spend exchanging our notes, but it's a joy to have you with us tonight. Of course, you know what's going on here with this gully issue, Holetown, the whole Pierhead development. Let's hear your thoughts this evening.
Well, good night, Dr. Nichols, and all the loyal sons and daughters all. It is indeed a great privilege to be able to share with you my concerns on what is happening in Barbados. And I am sure that each one of you, each one is deeply concerned about what is happening, and we are doing what we have to do in order to save our country. So it's really wonderful being with you again tonight, Dr. Nichols, and I look forward to an enlightening session. Now, yes, we had a really interesting meeting yesterday, and I would like to just give a review of what happened yesterday. I think it was indeed a marvelous session of the Roadside Parliament. I think this is our second Roadside Parliament for the year 2025. Again, it is just one moment.
Yes,
Again,
actually, it is.
Sorry?
Yeah, it is our second Roadside Parliament. Yes.
Yes, and it was indeed really marvelous because there was great interaction between the all of us, both the speakers, and those who were there to support and welcome the speeches in the interest of Barbados. There was great interaction between us. I think there was a time during my delivery when I reminded the group, the gathering, about the words of the ancient Sumer, from Sumer, right? When the traveler asks, what has become of the Sumerians, because history shows that, the record shows that they were black. What happened to them? And the old man that answers, he sighed, and I didn't know I was that dramatic, but I said, cried the old man, they lost their history, so they died.
Oh my, oh my.
Yes, and one of our faithful daughters, she cried. She responded with such pain and agony. Not about here, not about here, and not, and she was literally praying, and it reminded me. I am reminded of the depth of the pain and agony of elderly Barbadians, having worked so hard to build this country and make it what it was. Notice I said was. Then to see a misguided politician just throwing Barbados to the wolves and saying, eat as much as you need. And that is very painful for us senior Barbadians, having grown up in Barbados and suffered. We were poor and destitute, but we had integrity and character. We built Barbados, and now to see it being squandered by ignorant and misguided government, it is indeed really painful.
But interestingly enough, Nigel, you mentioned the history, the heritage, the elderly. Minister Strawn actually made a mention of the elderly and the heritage we have in terms of people tonight, but he only made that in reference to the transfer of property, within families, to avoid conflict and that type of thing. I was actually hoping that he would have spoken to the removal of land tax from all of the land that would be owned by the elderly, the people who would have labored so hard in our sun, and made Barbados what it is today, and fought to just have a piece of the rock that they could pass on to their posterity. But I was disappointed in that all I think he referred to was a matter of transfer of taxes, the taxes, transfer tax, to do with giftings to the family and so on. But as I engage with you, we see to me a total disrespect, Nigel, of all that Barbadians have labored so hard to develop over the years. What do you think? I mean, when you look at Holetown, when you look at Joe's River, when you look at GIBBS Gully, when you look at the entire area from the garrison, what they call it, the barracks, all the way down to the pier, the history of the wharf, where those liners came in with, I mean, it may have not been Napoleon Bonaparte's history, but it was mine. Where those vessels came in with the bananas and with the different things from the other islands.
Yes, the history is very important, and to lose your history, as the traveler said, it is like dying when you lose your history. But I remember hearing my father in particular speaking about the hardships that they endured, because when he was a boy, he had to go into the field, so to speak. And even the adults back then, they will work a whole day. And at the end of the day, the driver or the one in charge would chase them away, or would just go and look at the work and express dissatisfaction and chase them away, and they would have to leave without a day's pay. I also remember the time when our people could not face the store in Bridgetown. If they needed a spoon, a teacup, or something like that, they had to go to the manager of the plantation and order a spoon, a teacup, or even, in those days, there were no waterborne toilets. There was a toilet on the outside. So in the middle of the night, the ladies couldn't go out and so on and so forth. So they would use what we would term a night bucket. Even that, our grandparents had to ask the plantation manager to order it for them. They worked hard and built this country. And then to see that a government now take liberty to sell this country over to foreigners, that is extremely painful and hurtful. And it came home to me yesterday when that lady cried out, "Not about here, not about here." So we need to pay attention to the concerns of the elderly in Barbados.
You know what I found, Nigel, over the past several days. I've been trying my best to keep pace because I follow so many different aspects. You know, international politics, American, Ukraine. I follow it all because I realize that. You know, when something happens in another part of the world, it does impact us directly. You know that war in Ukraine and Russia has affected shipping rates, costs, all kinds of things have occurred, and you know I found it so disingenuous listening to the comments of the minister. Well, I don't think he's the current minister of housing anymore. He was. I think that is now Dwight Sutherland, but the Honorable William F. Duguid, JPMP. I found it so disingenuous listening to the rhetoric, but what struck me was the perspective that regardless of what you all have to say, the government is going to push ahead with our plans. It was like the France with you. Who gives a damn what you think? You know, we're going to do what we want to do, no matter what you have to say. You know, it was like a PR stunt where you facilitate the expressions of people, you know, so they ventilate, and after the ventilate, you just move right ahead and do what you want to do.
No, that is why I suggested in my last appearance, I think it was last week, and this is one of the critical issues that came up yesterday. One of them, but and this is the second one that I want to think. But you know, we talk about Barbados being a democracy, but really, is it really a democracy? Could this kind of thing happen in a real democracy where the people cried out and continue to cry out against the abuses of the government, and rather than listening to the cries and the concerns of the people, you have a minister coming on the air and telling Barbadians, well, yes, you complain and you whatever, but the government is still going to do what it has to do. Is that really a functioning democracy?
But can we ask Nigel? So, what was the purpose of the meeting? Well,
What?
can I
Sorry,
suggest, Cami, in our chat, Cami asked what was the purpose of the meeting. But can I suggest to you, Cami, Minister Strawn says a number of things that caught my attention, but he made a comment that the Prime Minister has also made, and I circled it. If you see something, say something. And as a result of that, I believe that our consistent reference, Canon Rogers also suggested that Barbados needs to wake up. We need to become alert and aware as to what is happening. The reason I believe that we had that meeting was to continue to sensitize the Barbadian public. Because listen, elections are upcoming.
Yes.
And contrary to the popular belief, Barbadians are not going to, in 2025, 26, 27, whenever it's called, have short memories. And the reason, Nigel, they're not going to have short memories is because people like you and I are going to remind them in the election year what the government did and what the government said and what the government expressed in terms of ignoring the concerns of its citizens.
Of course, we will remind them. We will remind them, and we are not going away. You know,
No,
we
not
are
at
not
all.
going away. We are not sleeping, because you see, since 2018, and let me repeat it, beginning in 2018, democracy went or was placed on the deathbed. The so-called democracy in Barbados was laid on the deathbed. And everything that the government has done since then confirmed that there is no democracy in Barbados. Look at them. Look at them. Oh, look
Well,
at them.
I mean, I'm looking at the gentleman to the right, who looks very suspect. The one in the back, you know, these people don't look like they have any interest really in the well-being of the people of this country. And I'm being very brutal, I'm being very honest, and very straightforward. I know, and I would have to say I know all of them. I mean, we're not buddies and pals, but we've known one another for some time. I know the Deputy Prime Minister's father, and I've sat and talked with him not long ago. But you know, the thing is that these decisions that continue to be made, I listened today, and I see GLYNE has joined us. So let me ask GLYNE to come in as well. I will, but I'm engaging aspects. Please let me do this. Right. Let me invite GLYNE to join us. Getting a little bit of a feedback somewhere there. Let me see where it is. I think it might be on your end, GLYNE.
Well, this is the first time in weeks that I've had that problem.
Yeah.
That seems to have disappeared. I thought that was the end of that. Let me see. Hold on a second.
While you're getting that,
Any better?
let me see. No, I'm still getting it.
Hold on a sec.
Okay. Yeah, Nigel. Yeah, go ahead on that point that you were making before I sought to bring GLYNE in.
Oh, you mean the point with Barbados?
Yes, with the democracy. Yes.
Yeah, really and truly, when you really examine the system of governance, or when I really analyze it, critically analyze it, I must conclude, and I have to conclude, that Barbados is not really and has never been a democracy. Now, I recognize that with the coming of adult suffrage in 1951, there was an opportunity for our founding fathers to make a difference in the governance of Barbados. And they used that opportunity well in order to bring about some changes in Barbados. And I recognize that. I respect that, you see. But broadly speaking, in my estimation, Barbados has never been a democracy. The reason why I say that is because you recall some time ago. So I'm getting.
Yeah, we're still getting that feedback.
Still
getting that feedback. Okay.
Is it terribly strong or something? Or just a faint? How strong is it?
Yeah, it's very strong.
Let me shift position and see if that makes any difference. It might be I don't know if it might be the internet or what, but I haven't had this problem.
You have any other devices open or only one?
Only one. Only one near me.
Okay.
So what do I do?
Well, let me see if I can, because I have Nigel's mic muted, but I'm still getting the feedback.
Turn off my mic and see what happens then.
Okay, I'm not getting it anymore, even with Nigel's mic on and my mic on. Let me turn you back on, see if it's still happening. Yeah, still happening as soon as I turn on your mic. Yeah. Almost like if your mic is picking up your earpieces.
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, Nigel. Sorry.
Oh yes. Okay. You remember I drew to your attention some months ago the expression of Professor Madden of Oxford University. He was preparing the students, the administrators for the British Empire in Africa. And when and this is all documented in the book The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. Professor Madden was annoyed that the African system of democracy, which gave the people the power to take down the king or the chief, he complained that that was primitive democracy and that had to be destroyed in order to establish British indirect rule in Africa. Okay? So that in traditional Africa, they had genuine democracy in which the people had the power to take down. For example, if we were operating under that system, we would have had our government down long ago. But we don't have that original democracy. Okay? So what we have, our system of governance now is just a continuation of the governance that the colonial masters imposed on the world, so to speak. Okay, so that is my view, and that is why I am saying that Barbados is not a democracy, and that the only way we're going to have a democracy is when we, the people, have the power to take down a government when it goes against our wishes.
Right, and that is what you're saying then is true democracy. Really, is putting the power in the hands of the people. The people can make that decision. And we would argue, people here would argue that that's a decision that we have in terms of our voting. Well, let me try with GLYNE again, because we do want to move into a bit of an examination of the budget. So let me see if I bring him in again, if we are still having that problem. Let me see. I have you in. GLYNE, are you hearing me all right?
Is it better now?
Oh, perfect.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. No, that is even a louder repeat of me.
Oh, but are you still getting the buzz?
No.
Good. Okay. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. Thanks. A pleasure to join you. And do you want me to proceed now? Yeah. I'm not hearing you, but I hope you're hearing me. Good night, Nigel. Good night, Ferdy. Pleasure to join you. I listened to Nigel carefully, both of you, the question of democracy, but we do have the means of removing a government at the polls. That is how we demonstrate that version of democracy.
Yes.
So we do have it. It's a question. And a court system, you're supposed to wait until that time comes around by the Constitution to exercise your democratic right. If it's only when the government seeks to frustrate that right that you have a problem. As I thought it was done in the 2022 elections during COVID, when no attempt was made to accommodate persons who might have been hospitalized or had COVID. I think that was a frustration. That was an anti-democratic move. But I am afraid I am not one of those who rails complete about everything about the colonialism. We have to remember that the language we speak is a colonial language, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we have managed it in our own ways. That is what you do. You don't. Very few cultures that intermix. You erase everybody. You erase the whole culture. You borrow. You borrow. You lend. You draw. You take on. So it's a process. I'm sure that we here in Barbados would have, given our African roots, would have also influenced the colonials. So it's an intermingling of culture, what they call acculturation, where the cultures meet and borrow and mix and drop in and drop. Right now, being acculturated, but North America predominantly. The crime that we are saying, I think, is largely North American in its origin. So again, that is another form of acculturation, another form of colonization. So it's all part of life. I'm afraid I don't get too caught up about that, because cricket is colonial too, football. largely the system of music as we know it. So it's part. I accept colonialism and European influence as part of my whole being. All right, and I am in no way ashamed of it. I'm nowhere regretful of it. It happened. It was part of history. Barbados as a society and a civilization fashioned its own interpretation, accommodation, and execution of those experiences. And we did a pretty good job of recently doing that. So I take comfort in that, and hopefully future generations will pick up from where we left off and move on. That would be my take on that situation. Might not be yours, but that is mine. That's how I've seen it.
Well, what I'm going to do, GLYNE, I am going to leave the studio and come back in and see if I can eliminate that aspect with you.
So, Nigel, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Judging from your report and also Mr. Lewis, you seem to have had a good session yesterday.
Oh yes. It was fantastic. Good. And there's an echo again. I would like to say a little more on the session yesterday, but I have to wait until Dr. Nichols' return. Because I too am getting a feedback. You can still hear me, Mr. Murray? Oh no, I'm not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes. I'm hearing you now.
Are you still getting the feedback too?
Speak again. Yes, it's still there.
You want maybe when Freddie comes, but I will go in and come back in and see if that. From my end, if that will help clear it up. But he's still out.
Let me.
Do you want me to go in, go and come back in, Nigel? Freddie?
You can try that. Let's see if we can get that corrected. So while he's doing that, GLYNE, Nigel, you can just finish what you were stating when that he can come back in. Yeah, you need to unmute. Let me just see. Go ahead.
I respect his view on the matter, but for me, I think we need to cleanse ourselves of some of the a lot of the vestiges of colonialism. We are not English people. We are an African people. And I believe that if we are to be truly liberated, truly free from the vestiges of colonialism, then I think we are going to have to seriously re-engage our African cultural register. That is, okay, for example, Mr. Murray spoke about we are using the English language. Why can't we teach some of the African languages in our schools? All right. Now, in the area of African religion, why can't we accept and participate or practice our traditional African religion?
But how much evidence is there of it around? You'd have to start a new re-socialization process to do all that. Is that practical? It has to be a process. We were acculturated by a process, so we would have to modify that by a process. It cannot be done.
Hundreds of years old.
Yeah. For me, when I speak English, I speak English that it's an international language. If I were to learn Swahili, that will be only applicable in very narrow circles.
But you know, Glenn, I'm going to say though there was one language that was spoken this evening that we
Yeah,
want.
can I, if you don't mind, I don't mind. Let Nigel wrap up, then I'll go to my part about the budget. Can we take up from there?
You're finished for now, then, Nigel, or
Yeah,
anything?
okay.
We can pick up this as a
All right.
discussion.
I want to return. Yeah, well, I do respect, as I said, I respect Mr. Murray's take on the whole issue. But from my experience, I am saying that we need to re-engage our African heritage in a meaningful way. Move it away from the occasional dress, dashiki or whatever. Move it away from that and get into the actual history, study African history. Now, we're having a problem, say, with violence, crime, and so on and so forth. Why can't we engage African philosophy and African moral philosophy and African ethics?
But Nigel, with all due respect, we having crime and violence in Africa too, and wars. Where the same philosophy had originated and probably selected.
Yeah.
So I. But I just,
we can engage this aspect in a future time as well. Yeah, because it's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting conversation to have. Because we've gathered and learned a lot, and I don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater. But certainly for today, Nigel and GLYNE, they chose to drop the budget on the night I'm hosting the show. And I don't know why they chose to do that. I feel you split them up to it, but you're going to be taking a look at the budget. I believe you were able to watch it.
I listened to most of it. Yeah, I would think to say. First of all, I like to I think I like to apologize on behalf of all Coppermarians to the performance of Minister Ryan Strong. Now, Minister Ryan Strong is normally a much more effusive, polished, flowing speaker than that, right?
I thought so.
No, he normally is.
Yeah.
All right. And this evening, the way the whole thing turned out, I suspected other people obviously would have a hand in the content of all of it. But he seemed as though he'd only seen it for a few minutes before he was asked to deliver it. Because he had to be coached. What sounded like the Prime Minister's voice was correcting him all the time and telling him, as though. He was not flowing. He wasn't picking up his. If you were speaking, you said the cat. He was halting, pausing, and it really was not a very commendable performance. They believe that he himself would admit to that. He's much better than that. On the floor, naturally, he speaks better than that. And I think he was a victim of circumstances. I think that having that honor thrust upon him, well, I don't know when he saw it, but I would think that he's normally well prepared, and as part of that discipline, he should have been equally prepared for this, unless circumstances force him to take it and deliver as he did. But normally I would expect that he would have practiced, he would have gotten some coaching and got delivery. Because this is a bigger occasion than he ever had before. And I would think not only that, but his cabinet colleagues, I think the Prime Minister who gave the assignment should have made it possible for him to have some letters and deliveries, practice, because he's representing the whole government, he's representing her administration. He's representing her choice to deliver it. She haven't opted out and passed it on to him. I really think that every effort should have been made to make him present a more flowing, polished performance, because it's easily the most unpolished performance I've seen in budgets ever. And I go about days when Mr. Barrow, I think he prepared the first budget as we know it then, right? And it was a much deeper, more flowing, structured thing. I think, therefore, it was probably the conditions in which he delivered it more than anything else. And the thing about human behavior is that unfortunately, people will remember him more for the quality of his, or lack of quality of his presentation than the content. That's how the human way. The negative is people will always remember him more than the contents and the giveaways, the grants, whatever, because of the circumstances. So he was the medium and he was the messenger, and therefore I do not think it was his worst, his best thing. And I'm surprised. I was still trying to figure out why. The Prime Minister had said that at a meeting, I think it was the Ideas Forum in Mississippi, that she wanted to give an interview at that forum, that when she announced that and she was asked about it, why him, she said she wants to give people a chance to develop or whatnot. But it didn't quite work out as I probably think it had worked out. And he had made much straw of the fact that, he gave tribute to the University of Waterford, which I'm sure would have hurt your feelings as a Arizona. I'm just kidding around from Cormier. But the point is, but then he said that he's second. I'm just going to let me do a little political history here. He's the second trained economist to have delivered a budget. I think the other trained one would have been Wayne Arthur. Previous to that, Mr. Barrow, who attended London School of Economics, was not economist, but he would have had exposed economics. Obviously, in his presentation, the way he presented, he had some acquaintance, but he was not a trained economist per se. But he was, and Mr. Adams too, who Sir Grady also had exposure to economics. I have a book as a gift from his library about the wealth of nations, that classic book on economics, and he wrote it. So he would have had some acquaintance, but most of all, both Mr. Barrow and Mr. Adams would have been exposed to the in London to the democratic socialism. One favored Lasky, and one called Grandy was a Fabian, which was a more moderate, gradual, step by step. Lasky was a more radical, aggressive step. So that was the only difference between them. But the philosophy was the same, where the government had a central role in providing the best deal for its people, without qualification. And then, while Tom Adams himself was not an economist, he did what was called a PPE at Oxford, politics, philosophy, and economics at the master's level. So he would have had a good sound grounding in it, even though he was not a trained practical economist. Theoretically, right, and scholastically, would have been exposed to a much deeper form of economics. The Prime Minister, I think she went to I think she did law at the London School of Economics, but I don't really see any traces in her speeches or presentations that she had that kind of exposure thing. Mr. Sandiford, I think he did a master's in MSc at Manchester University, I think it was. But most of them, but the point is that they were normally supported by, having had a grounding, they were normally supported by school, experienced, talented public servants to give them the guidance or whatnot and support they need. I think the Prime Minister's deficiency, she does not have the grounding, the basic. I only did 1 year in economics, 101, but there's certain basic principles I learned with Randall McKeel and Frank Allen. So there's certain to relate to because of that ground. I think that is the fault. That's the fault in that. But so I think it's unfortunate for Minister Strong that his first foray as present a budget. But maybe when that part dies down and people look at the content, they'll be more redeeming than people want to. People will look past and beyond his presentation and deal with content rather than style and form, right? It seems as though the first half an hour, 40 minutes was a rehash of all that you heard from prior, another rehash of 2018 on the last decade, and that was boring stuff. Up to a certain point, I I think up to probably the last half an hour, it was nearly 4 hours. They did 3 to something hours. It was very defensive. Although they had to prove everything, it was very defensive. There was not an bubbling with confidence and direction and energy as though they were on top of things. But I had some questions. The Prime Minister, I say, Mr. Strong spoke today. Mr. Thorne will have equal time on broadcast tomorrow from 3 o'clock or so onward for equal time, but then you can go beyond that, but it won't be broadcast. And after that, the debate will be taken up by a minister from the government side. That which used to be a prized position, the person coming after leader of the opposition used to be a position that was sought after by those who had political aspirations of leadership, etc. I suspect from my contacts tell me it's most likely going to be Minister Jordan, who's a more mellow, calming, has a higher status and stature and tone than Kerry Simmons, Minister Kerry Simmons, who would normally done it. And he would seem more as an aggressive person. I think they want a more reserved, composed, different tone to it. And that's my information that is most likely going to be Minister Jordan. And then the debate will ensue on Tuesday. It's today, tomorrow, and Wednesday are the 3 days allotted to the debate. I suspect the Prime Minister will come sometime on Wednesday, prime time, so she can justify and defend and explain and whatnot. Minister Strong will lay the wicket for her today. We look forward with great anticipation how Mr. Thorne will handle his time tomorrow. Because if you remember last time he performed exceedingly well. And there's a school of thought that one of the reasons why the Prime Minister might, what is perceived, believed, speculated, have passed on the task to Minister Strong was that she was not quite up to taking those kind of political blows again. And Minister Strong is a less big political aggressive target, not a bigger bullseye then politically as she would be in the eyes of Mr. Thorne. But I also think that I really think that her travels, or let me put it this way, from all of my observing close associates with personal project providing budget overseers, it used to be a task where you spent several weeks in and around Barbados dealing with information, interviewing people, so it was you embodied, it was part of you as the minister, right? She would not have had that. I don't remember when after ever leaving, but not even the budget, the estimates haven't been out of the estimates largely in person because she never even spoke in the estimates. So therefore, I don't think she was ready. I don't think she was ready enough equipped to do it properly in her usual style. But when she speaks tomorrow, Wednesday, there's sort of a lot of questions I would like to pose. I would like to pose to her. I would want to know if what is her evaluation of Barbados now in these multiple IMF programs. Because I think we know do Birth 3 coming up in a few weeks or months. So 1, 2, 3 years up to that. So we either a rollover into another birth program from the IMF. And I know that because if you could read Ferdy, if you can read this, can read a slide here for me. Can you say it clearly enough to read it for me?
Yes, I can. And I quote, Jamaica's type of debt with the IMF strangles the chances of generations as servicing interest on top of the interest over 50 years has robbed the generations of opportunities for a better life and impeded the country's social, economic, and national development.
Can you read it again so it would help you? Could you repeat it?
Sure. Jamaica's type of debt with the IMF strangles the chances of generations as servicing interest on top of interest over 50 years has robbed the generations of opportunities for a better life and impeded the country's social, economic, and national development.
Can you mention the source of those words at the bottom there?
Okay, the banner is actually blocking that.
Okay,
So
those are words.
there it is. Dr. Nigel Clark, former Jamaican finance minister and now deputy IMF managing director, October the 3rd, 2024.
Right. Okay. So that is how Dr. Nigel Clark. He's now the deputy managing director of the IMF. And he said Jamaica. He's basically said Jamaica has, after 50 years of being the IMF, they're still their progress. The IMF has retired their progress. And when he talked about paying interest upon interest, it reminded me that probably a year or so ago, the Prime Minister made the observation when the question of debt and interest rates came up. She said that Barbados, she admitted, she confessed, she said that she complained that Barbados had found itself in the position where you were entering a loan to pay a loan. Prime Minister, what you say, interest upon interest. In other words, it's like a treadmill, you just go around, round and round and round. And after listening to what Dr. Nigel Clark has said about Jamaica, who has been in it longer than we have been, hopefully I will be. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister if she's convinced that going into IMF for this type of program was best for Barbados. Because I remember Prime Minister Tom Adams told me that Jamaica, about 1982, that Jamaica would never recover from the IMF, right? They're devalued. And that's 1982, which is what, 43 years ago, right? And in the same time frame that Dr. Nigel Clark is talking about. So the record is there. If after nearly 50 years, development has been stymied and frustrated, people have not been able to provide a better life for the persons, which is a phrase, which is a phrase and slogan of the Barbados Labour Party, a better life for the people. And the Dr. Nigel Clark, an outstanding the party, practicing economist, has come to say that it has failed them to bring about the development. Because, as you know, IMF prides itself on growth, on paying its bill. IMF is not a benevolent society. It's a bank, and they give a loan on their conditions. All they want is to pay it back. They're not doing anything to develop you, enhance your quality of life. It is growth on paper, the primary surplus, and all the other technical things. That is what, and that why we are doing all this thing today. I am yet to convince that the average Barbadian is better off after nearly 7 years in the IMF hands. And I would like to know if you think I'm on the right track. And when will okay, we've been given some ostensibly relief, etc. But when Barbados is still in a very tight program with the IMF, austerity, efficiency. That's what happened to CBC. Had to happen to CBC. We could not postpone that anymore. But there goes an institution which has been around, as we know it, since 1963. What is the future of that? I think it's going to cost the CBC, cost the government $10 million. Where is that coming from? So we are paying the price for CBC. A similar thing was done with less fanfare, more secrecy than the BADMC or BAMC, whatever it was, because we don't get any insight into these programs. We don't get what it costs, how it's being handled. It just happens, and therefore, and that's because the IMF does. The IMF plus the approach of this government is like, for example, you had been blaming Dr. Dugate for that, the quality of the Minister of Civic, etc., and his whole attitude towards the Holetown project. Right? I only discovered today when I saw when I came across a list of reassignments that Dr. Dugan is actually the Minister of Planning and Development. The Prime Minister, he's Minister of Planning and Development in the Prime Minister's office. So it looks as though we've been unjustifiably targeting the Prime Minister as Minister of Planning and Development. And this came about as a result of the recent cabinet reshuffle. So he's now the de facto bona fide, for what I read from the notice, Minister of Planning and Development. So therefore, we have to. I was under the impression that, although I'm sure the Prime Minister will still have some influence into these things, but I know they'll have to see him as representing Planning and Development as the de facto minister, calling the shots with the legal authority. So therefore, a lot of decisions, I think, now have to go his way. I don't know if you want to interject anything before you go on.
Well, you know, given his position that, you know, as I said, the banner there is just hiding that. Given his position as a former Minister of Finance and now his position as Deputy IMF Managing Director, I think, and I think his expression here relative to Jamaica, and again this evening when I listened to Minister Strawn reflecting on the debt situation of Barbados, and while he was speaking, I started to do some research to discover that the Barbados debt in 2023 was $7.59 million US, an increase of over 308 million since 2022. GLYNE, it still brings me back to ask the question, where are we going to be getting the money from to service these debts? Because that statement on the screen suggests there is a challenge for future generations in being able to service the debt that the country in Jamaica vis-a-vis Barbados has incurred.
But we already are in a challenge. We already talk about repaying. We have loans to the IMF that go into 2035, 2040. That's a future. That's half of that generation. So it's that long, and we are not yet out of the woods with them. So it's quite possible. Like Jamaica was supposed to be the poster child of the IMF in the Caribbean, but their record is not an inspiration for us. I do not think I heard Minister Strawn today mention the IMF loans. He talked about Bert 1, 2, and 3, but never once IMF. I heard mention of the World Bank. I think World Bank, yeah, but I do not recall. He might have been a mistake because I might have been not as attentive because of the nature of the presentation. But he never once tried to give us a picture. He tells us what our debt to GDP was, close to 100, just over 102% now. Those kind of, he never once mentioned and remind us that we were an IMF program. And that is the problem with this government. They have never come to us and let us say, okay, these are the ups, these are the downs, these are the pros, these are the cons, these are the benefits, but these are the squeezes, the pain. It was always been making that everything is all right. Everything cannot be all right because we are, look, you get reports of an upsurge in the number of people going to welfare, seeking assistance, going to Salvation Army, all the charities that are seeing more and more people. And there's nothing that tells that it's around the corner. We got some, it seems as though we got some. Right? I think the one thing mentioned today in the budget was some solidarity fund, some solidarity grant that's being given to people through NIS.
Yes.
Where's that coming from?
You see, GLYNE, that's the thing that I found was not, and I've witnessed it in several budgets, Adams, Barrow, Arthur, where having gone through, their accountability of the preceding year, they would now present to you what is the intent of the government for the upcoming year, and in terms of the generation of revenues, how they would intend to raise those revenues.
Right, that's
I
right.
stand to be corrected, but I don't recall hearing the minister address how are we going, because we were, the government, it was costing 2 billion for this, 380,000 for that, and but I didn't hear anything that said to me, this is how we intend to raise the revenues to make
Right.
those, to compensate for those losses.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I agree. I don't recall him explicitly pinpointing, say it's $1 billion plus that we need to raise, and we need to get by raising that. There were some tax. He said there were no new tax, but there were some increases here and there. But he never said, okay, this is the sum we need to get, and we get it by raising this, that. And like you said, I do in the custom. Again, they're trying to, the content is trying to evade the negative. Right. So that was the tactic being used, the political tactic being used.
You know, even the raising of the taxes on the salted, snacks and so on, there was nothing to say what that would translate to. You know, I'm going to put a 20% excise tax on corn kernels and Pringles and so on, and that will produce $4 million. You know, I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, I think in economics they call it a sin tax, where they tax non-necessities, alcohol, tobacco, those snacks, right, and make them more expensive to discourage, hoping the cost will discourage consumption.
And generally, wouldn't you hear what would have been
how much it would raise?
How much would have raised? The tax on cigarettes or the tax on sweet drinks is going to be X, and we expect that to bring in, $850,000. And I didn't hear that.
You mentioned what the government would be spending on something, but you never said so. Is either will raise or something term will be revenue neutral, which makes it balance out itself. But none of those terms, because they're still trying to paint a rosy picture of the last 7 years. Go ahead.
No, I was just wanted to make a mention of the banner that's on the screen now for the folk that are viewing it. Those of you in the loyal opposition who wish to, you can meet the leader of the opposition at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon in front of the Parliament before the budget response. We were there before when I think he was taking up the position for the first time as leader of the opposition. So if you have an interest, please, you can meet with him at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon in front of the Parliament before the budget budget response.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the screen there. He was talking of the construction of these hotels with the hundreds of rooms, the thousands of people who were going to be employed in the construction of them, and the hundreds of jobs that would be produced. But what I didn't hear was as a result of this increase, for example, of the room capacity of the country, what was the projected result of that type of thing?
Well, what disappointed me about that, I mean, I was impressed by the number of projects that are coming on stream due to open, etc. The jobs. But and there was the warning that we would soon not be able to meet the demand for jobs in the sector. What I did not hear is how are you going to police the system? Because there's a racket going on in Barbados now, particularly in areas of the construction sector, where the Chinese are a different breed. They come, they bring everything. They don't hire any staff. It's a government. It's a company owned by the Chinese government, and the money goes back to China. They control everything. They don't shop. They don't put much back into the economy. All right, but the other people, they're non-Barbadians who are doing most of this contract, or most of these projects. They're hiring a lot of non-Barbadian people because they pay them rates lower than what Barbarians would take. Sometimes they use the Barbarians to coach them, teach them how they want, and then they fire the Barbarians. I had a relative who went into construction, and he was ripped off. He worked. He never got paid for the last 2 weeks. He had to buy his own safety boots, no hat. They look at lunchtime. and he never got paid. Right? It is chicken feed, and then it's even lower for the foreign workers. I think that if you're going to have a regime of bringing foreign workers, government should police it. There should be a certain level of accommodation, certain standards. We should not degrade the quality of life for anybody in Barbados. Or what it does, it lowers what the Barbadian worker can demand himself. He then expects to take a wage at the same or even lower than the norm. And the government is supposed to be the model employer. Government should do what it is among itself, not to give contracts for employment or service, and not paying NIS, not paying. I know from my experience in Canada, I remember we used to have a lot of calls for Barbadians who were farm workers who go up there every few years and pick fruit and apples and vegetables, etc. And they were angry that they had to pay taxes in Canada. But the law in Canada was that once you come to Canada and work, no matter who you are, you have to pay tax across the board, right? And then workers, when they came back to Barbados, they were taking out some of the taxes for LAS, and then they would get something for Canada. They only realized the benefit when they came back. But I'm saying if you allow people to come here, all it does, they pay no income tax, they pay no NIS, they're probably not putting very much back in the economy. What we are not getting the real benefits. And what are we expect? We are expanding the country to give them a certain standard of living, goods and so that they are not plowing back into society. It was different from when the Guyanese were here. They were here living, marrying, or helping with business. They spent money. You could see it. You could feel it in the society. If you pass by the bus stand in those days, and Fridays and Saturdays especially, I'm saying we are not, from what I'm told, we're not seeing as having a similar
Not seeing that coming back.
We're not getting the benefit. So it's all right to have jobs. Most of the jobs in the construction, and then from what I understand, you're not employing the steel benders and the carpenters and the masons. You're having a lot of precast buildings which are done off-site and come and installed with the wires, the electrical wires and conduits in already.
So everything in already. Yeah.
So therefore we are not benefiting in the way we should be getting, but it's massive.
All this construction is going on. Nigel, your view on this, because one of the things I saw recently in an article, I think it was in one of the newspapers, and maybe you saw it as well, GLYNE, was something about a construction going on with, and all the workers that were there, they were saying were Chinese workers, and it was a local construction. It wasn't that it was a project funded by the Chinese or anything like that. It was a local thing. So Nigel, what is your take? I'll come right back to you, GLYNE. Just want to hear what Nigel your view is on this, huh?
Okay, sometime. Oh, sorry, my mic is.
Yeah, you're okay. You can go ahead. I unmuted you.
Yeah, I heard about it some time ago, and I am concerned that things in Barbados have degenerated to such an extent that Barbadians are treated with, they are viewed with invisibility and treated with benign neglect. And any and every foreigner now can enter into Barbados and, well, do what is necessary for them. But I think the time has come when we as Barbadians must have a different look at what is happening in this country, and recognize that the government's first obligation is to Barbadians, not Guyanese, not Jamaicans, not Vincentian. The government's first responsibility is to Barbadians. I remember back in the 1990s when Sandy Lane was developing. I had a good friend. He died a couple of years ago. He was into construction. And what he said to me was that back then, just before we had this influx of Guyanese workers, the construction magnates in Barbados closed down the site, sent home Barbadians, and then brought in Guyanese to do the work at a cheaper rate. And from then, we have been having problems with others coming into Barbados, being employed, and young men in Barbados are on the block. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, they don't want to work for
They
this
don't want those jobs.
and so on and so forth. But the point is, government and our chief responsibility is to Barbadians first, and if possible, others next. Okay? Because when you have young men in Barbados unemployed, in fact, I had put it into the form of a poem. Just let me illustrate it with one verse of a poem I wrote on that matter. Fancy, Ra, fancy, traveling across this beautiful land. I see men in their vigor and prime, poor, dejected, with empty hands they stand. Yet living in a land of plenty, where millions are made by those of a distant land. It is about time that our government recognize that it is morally obligated to Barbadians first.
And I support you firmly on that, Nigel, completely. I was thinking next to make the point that I understand because of the greedy nature of capitalism, people who want to maximize their profit will come to Barbados and try and seek to do what they want to suit their interests. But we have a Ministry of Labor, her Labor Department, who should be actively policing these sites to make sure the laws and the standards in Barbados are followed. Not only that, in the same way that the Barbados Workers Union, and what I'm talking about, this situation we're talking about is no secret. But in the same way the Barbados Workers Union could chase down and pressure KFC, publicly harass them, publicly. They're knowing how the Barbados Workers Union the activists. They got no labor laws, Bobby Gradley, Adams and Frank Walker, and so useful. They were the foundation of labor relations in Barbados. They should, as a matter of principle, as a matter of upholding the dignity and the principle of good labor relations, they should be doing this not for the benefit of their members alone, but for the benefit of all laborers and workers in Barbados. Solidarity. And they should be going to some of these sites, visiting, inspecting, finding out what's going on, and put pressure on the employers to help to improve their standards. If you sit back and meekly take it, they will only become more entrenched. It will be worse for our workers and worker Barbados. We need activism, not only against Kentucky. We need act against all unscrupulous employers, whether it be government, private, or whatever. And where the Chinese have projects which are run where government to government, but their company also have a company. Is it Complan? I think that's the name. That do I knew about in the early 2000s. They were building houses in Rockland Park. They go and seek work for themselves. So it's not that the company you're going to build a stadium or whatever. They go and they're practically saying capitalism anybody else. And one last thing before you go.
But I want to jump in before you move from that, if I can, GLYNE, because wouldn't they have to have some kind of status in the country to be able to carry out that type of activity? And if so, wouldn't that status have to be granted by, I don't know if it would be the Prime Minister or the Minister responsible for immigration? Wouldn't they have to have some kind of status for that?
But these things are negotiated government to government. And the Chinese do not like to disclose information. I remember during COVID, when there was an outbreak of COVID, when they were building the Wyndham site at Sam Lawrence, there was outbreak. And people who were in the military, the Chinese, did not even want them to admit publicly there was an outbreak. They want to control, they want to prevent the chief medical officer, who by law is mandated to announce these things, disclose these things. They want, and the government all do push back, and they announce it. But if you don't have that kind of vigor and determination, they will do it their way, their style. That is their way. But we have to maintain Always, our standards. Otherwise, when you erode these standards, the next person comes and makes it easier and easier for Barbadians and Barbados to be worse off.
You know,
Yeah, go ahead, Nigel.
you know, employment or the employment of Barbadians, especially young men, and the crime situation in Barbados. I think the time has come when we as a nation should withdraw from CARICOM. And yes, Mr. Murray, we should withdraw.
Why?
Because our country is inundated with too many non-nationals. One, we have lost control of our country and our destiny. And in order for us to put our house in order, we're going to have to say sorry to the others, block them, clean our house up, set it in order, and then we invite them when we need them to be here. Nobody should be allowed free access to come in willy-nilly when they like. No, you are looking at social disintegration.
If I may interject, you said, Nigel, that there were too many non-nationals. How many are too many? How do you quantify?
How do you quantify it?
How do you know there are too many? What is the basis of your conclusion?
Just look around. Just look around. You go down Broad Street, go down on the markets. How many persons down there that are not Barbadians who are selling?
But you know,
go into construction.
You really the Barbadians who go and work at in the rest of the Caribbean. I mean,
that is not the point.
Let me make my final point. These people who come in cannot come in if we do not allow them in. It is a government facility, and only selective people under the CARICOM free movement thing are allowed certain very limited type of category of persons, unless there's special dispensation. We have to hear from immigration. What we need to call on the Minister of Immigration to give us a report on the number of nationals, where they're from, what categories of persons, etc. Number of work permits, what kind. We need that kind of report, which we don't ever get. That's what we do. Don't penalize those who are only come because they come in to make a better life as we go elsewhere and seek to make a level life too.
Yeah, you see, that's one of the things that I must admit in terms of the CARICOM. I think the persons who conceptualized it, the intent was, first of all, the freedom of movement in the Caribbean, and that I can tell you from my own personal experience has been a challenge over the years. You know, we used to actually, GLYNE, and I think you would agree with me, where you had persons from North America, the UK and whatnot come into the Caribbean and move freer through the Caribbean and work freer in the Caribbean than Caribbean people. You know, but I know of some people, I think it's through what do they call it again? That accreditation, is that the area, accreditation council, where persons can move and work in different parts of the Caribbean from Barbados and so on. I think there is benefit and there is liability in it, and I again, it's not a case where I would like to see the baby thrown out with the bathwater. I think it just needs to be managed properly, and once that is done, you know, you'd have a better grasp on things, you know. But I'm still very interested in, because we're going through the budget half hour here, so to speak, and we're just waiting on persons to call, and I want to remind persons that we are waiting your calls. From what I see, this is the time when you, the loyal opposition, the Barbadian public, you get to call in the Marcia Wheat Show to 367,000. There'll be someone standing by to receive your call, and once you make that call, they will notify us here and we will bring you into the conversation. All right. So please 236-7000, and I'll be looking out for the notification as to when those calls are made. There are a number of interesting comments coming up, GLYNE and Nigel, in the chat. Um, you know, Cam Har is asking for a specific number when we know there are many, many non-Barbadians working and privilege in BIM. It's a shady tactic. A number of different comments that have been coming up in the chat, and they've been coming up so quickly. I've even lost track on a few of them. But again, you know, I see this aspect as something in terms of people coming here to work. My concern, Nigel, GLYNE,
Right.
is the conditions when we agree with the Chinese government, the IMF, or whoever it is, you know, the Saudi Arabians and the people and Chile, with regards to the airport. What are the conditions
Because
associated with those type of contractual agreements?
there's no free lunches in the world.
Mhm.
You have they're not benefactors in country. They are everybody. It is said in politics that a country has neither permanent friends nor permanent enemies, only permanent self-interest. What are you? Every country has the right to pursue its self-interest to the maximum if it's allowed to. All right.
Mhm.
So they would like to get the maximum, but the thing is, it is what we want to get from them and what we are going to give in return. But like for
Mhm.
example, I'm still uncomfortable with the fact that the Chinese are going to be building a stadium.
Sorry, GLYNE, let me cross you just for a moment. We do have a caller on the
Oh,
line, so
excellent.
remember your
Sure.
last word,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
To do with the National Stadium. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Please go right ahead and make your comment or ask your question.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening to you.
I was listening this evening,
Mhm.
and I am a senior citizen.
Yes.
That was a very poor budget. In light of what is going on in our island, just 166 square miles. We, the pensioners and seniors of Barbados, we should have heard about some relief for us with the high taxes that we have to pay. And our food bill has gone skyrocketed. I don't know even what to say about that.
Mhm.
I thought that Mr. Strawn, he was bragging about all the hotels and things that were being built. I was speaking to someone this morning. They were coming here with a contingent of about 13 people from Britain. My daughter lives there.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
you know, they told her this morning, I invited them here, really. There's some of her co-workers, and you know what they said to her, that they have to scrap the tour for this coming summer holiday because Barbados is the most expensive place in the Caribbean. The tickets cost
Wow.
2,800 for the ticket to get here. And then what about the accommodation and stuff like that? I think that this government have got to go back to the drawing board. They have run themselves in some big trouble, and they've got to go back to the drawing board and do something on behalf of the citizens of Barbados. A lot of people out here are starving and suffering. The bills cannot be paid, the water bills and the hydro bills cannot be paid, and they're starving out to the core. And I think a big mistake have been made with this budget that was prepared for Mr. Strawn. You could see all he was doing was fidgeting with that reef because it was a big reef he had on his chest and it hadn't red in it, and that was there for a reason. You all have a great evening, sir. And this is a great show that you all have this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you so much. GLYNE?
Yeah, I think she made a fundamental point. As a pensioner myself, there's nothing in it for me. There's no special provision in it that would deal with even for those. The only concessions for people who might be pensioners are those who might have had government paper. There is a reduction. There's an increase in the interest or something like that, some
Yes.
fiddling with that. But if you had shares in Light and Power or Life for Barbados, there's nothing for you. You're still paying taxes on your dividends. You're paying twice, right? And so there's none for you. And where the NIS pensions are concerned, I feel the government again is playing politics. Remember, after 2018, when the BLP won, they gave a massive increase to non-contributory pensioners and a minimal increase to eventually to the people who had paid faithfully for those who had contributed. That was a populist move to get the support of the masses. This solidarity payment to everybody is another one of those moves. Another one of those moves so that everybody already gets it. Not just the people who've been paying faithfully, but all kinds of other people. And we are paid. We have to live with the same cost of living, and it's not being made deliberately better and easier for us. All the special interest groups. I have no quarrel. I understand the government do best for the disabled, etc. Right, but we have our needs too.
Yes.
We still want to maintain a dignified quality of life. I do not want to have to go and beg anybody for anything. Ease the taxation or bring down the price and make it easier for us to live. And the reason why I say I don't want to beg, the point I was making before we took the break, I feel very hard done by. I feel really done by to have to depend on the Chinese to build a free national stadium for Barbados. I feel that once it says national, it should be coming out the guts and people of Barbados. But to give me, for a foreign government to give you, and you have to sit down and wait till whenever they get around to it. And we are waiting for our athletics are starving for it, right? I think that is a humiliating self to put yourself in, and we should have gone back and brick by brick build a national stadium ourselves out of our own resources, brick by brick.
She did make a and I'm going to come back to comment with regards to that, GLYNE. But she made a couple of points. She talked about this group that was coming, and they seem to have changed their minds because they said Barbados was the most expensive destination. But right away, my thoughts went to this new projected plan of hotels for the entire Pierhead, all down Bay Street and so on. All of those, GLYNE, are going to be literally 4 or 5-star hotels with per night rates up in 400. I mean, Hilton right now is up in nearly 500 US a night. You're not going to have the masses of tourists who we are going to be expecting to arrive, most of who do a lot of purchasing locally as opposed to in the hotel. Because my daughter works at the Hilton, and I can tell you, every time I'm driving in, I am seeing droves of people from the hotel walking out to the gas station to purchase and so on. So I am just wondering, with all these grandeur plans you have, how are you going to...
Let me
go
give
ahead.
you that. I'm glad you raised that. Barbados in the world of tourism, especially the Caribbean, is a market brand. Barbados is not like Cancun, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Spain, where you go for cheap backpackers. So we attract a different level of tourists, and they have to pay for the brand. What we offer is higher on the quality, and somebody has to pay for it. It's reflecting the workers, the standard of living, etc. So you cannot really compare us with others because I do not think that we have. Barbados has historically, Barbados was a well-respected place to be in the 18th century. You used to come here to shop all over the Caribbean. You used to get what you can get in Rome and Paris and France. In Barbados. So we always had that reputation, we always had that standoutish, and that is the Barbadian brand. So you have to pay for the brand. You cannot compare us to St. Lucia. St. Lucia, with all due respect, or Dominica, with all due respect to them, they are good at what they do, but they don't have the heritage tourism right? George Washington came here. So we always had an upmarket, and that's why you have to pay for. So therefore, but on the other hand, we had one of the strengths of Barbados tourism, and I at one time worked at the Board of Tourism and Public Affairs, is the range of accommodation. You got the West Coast, you got the South Coast. So we have people you can fit into because you offer a range. It is not that you just have like in Monaco, you can't you have to have, you can't even go to stay in Monaco unless you have a certain base, you have to be qualified by your income. It's not that kind of exclusive, but we have a wide range from the least affordable up to the 100,000. But your choice is yours, what you can afford. And unfortunately, that is the reality. And at this time of the year, where peak demand is, it is still part of the winter.
Yeah.
It's not so the demand, if the demand and supply, when the demand is high, it's just like when you want to go to summer, if Barbarians want to go to Miami for the summer, demand, you want to go to Disney World, prices go because the demand is such, it's hard to get, you pay more. What they call economic dynamic pricing, where you raise the price, reflect the dynamics of the situation. When the demand goes up, you raise the price and drop it when it comes down. They do it in rare areas too. So that is part of it. So I understand her situation, but it is no fault of Barbados. It reflects the general situation, right? We have to have take enough to help run the country, pay for the schools, the hospital. If you go like Mexico or Dominican Republic, we'd be laughing at ourselves. We'd be shooting ourselves in the foot.
I hear what you're saying, GLYNE, but when I think of a place, for example, like the Cayman Islands, I've traveled to the Cayman Islands for the past 19 years of my life, and I have consistently returned here and said to my family that Barbados is more expensive than Grand Cayman, and people don't believe me. I pay less for the equivalent brand in Grand Cayman than I pay for it here in Barbados. For example, Kellogg's cornflakes. You pay what? Nearly $9 here for it. I'm going US because of the thing. Over in Grand Cayman, that same size box is $4.47 CI, which is about $5.80 US. So that, when I look at those different brands in the supermarkets and even their hotel accommodations, I mean, the hotel accommodations, as you know, Cayman Islands is equally at market because of the kind of persons that are living there and all that goes on there in terms of offshore banking and all this kind of thing. Expats owning properties, and I mean, property rates there are through the roof. But I've found our prices here very extravagant.
What have you factored in? Take a consideration of the fact of geography.
Location, the what? Sorry.
Geography,
location.
The
location.
closer you are to North America, the cheaper you are. Like the Bahamas, they're what, 90 minutes or less?
Yeah, Grand Cayman is about an hour.
Oh, there you are. In Barbados, it's much longer. You pay more. It's further away. The cost goes up commensurate.
Right.
Do they pay income tax in Grand Cayman?
No, and their duties actually are quite low. Their duties are quite low, by comparison. Right. I mean, by comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is part of the problem. We have to find means. Those are the realities of the situation.
Right.
But I understand that you should, despite that, you should always try to give the best. And hotel owners and operators are the business to make money, so they will have to know to be able to price that and make them affordable people, or the business will
price
suffer.
Themselves out of the market.
Right. So they're not insensitive to it, but at the same time, they have staff to pay, they have banks to pay, and therefore they cannot give up to the cheapest possible price. It'd be impractical.
And the other aspect that ran through my mind, someone had posted this a little earlier when we were talking. Remember when we made mention of the budget to do with taxes on the unhealthy foods? Let me call it unhealthy foods. And someone had actually indicated, and I think you do see it in the supermarket, that healthy foods are so expensive. you know, I don't know in terms of duties and those kind of things coming in, but you know, one would almost say could it be reciprocated? In other words, if you're going to tax the unhealthy foods, can you reduce the tax then on the healthy foods? You know, the grapes, the apples, the oranges, the broccoli, you know, that kind of thing.
I heard some mention of the price of some fruits, or the duty is going to be reduced. I heard it in passing for the minute. Some of that is taken consideration. But what I would like to talk about again, you talk about food. Ever since about 1972, when I attended my first CARICOM head of government as a journalist in Guyana, they were talking then at making Guyana the food basket of the Caribbean. That's 52 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, there was this talk of Guyana size, the population, the abundant resource. All right. I remember David Thompson promising that we were going to get vegetables and Dominica. This government has promised to get things from Belize, Guyana. What have you got for Guyana yet that has made any impact on the price or supply of food in Barbados? I know
we lost our black belly sheep. We lost our black belly sheep to them.
So I'm saying we are not enjoying the benefit. And I think I marvel, one of the handicaps of regional integration in the Caribbean, lack of physical communication. Air, they took Liat out the air. They took down Liat and crash. They took down Liat. We have when we were growing up,
interregional aircraft.
We had interregional vet. We had schooners. We had motor vessels, so people could trade and move back and forth. No, so how do they expect to build a feel of a community if people are not communicating? So
just
you have to have that intermixing, okay?
Just let me quickly remind you folk that the loyal opposition, 236-7000, GLYNE Murray, Nigel Newton, and myself, we're waiting to receive your call, your questions. Of course, you know, Mr. Murray is, I call him the expert on politics, government, economy.
I have a long memory. That's all.
You're better than me, I can tell you that.
Well, you would outdo me in the Bible and things religious too.
Well, maybe there.
It works. Nigel himself has his own perspective, his own experiences that makes him.
Oh yes, yeah.
Very informed in that area.
Please, so 236-7000 folk, we're waiting for your calls. I won't tell you who is on the line awaiting your calls to receive it. Of course, Dave is in the background there giving us, here we are. We have another call on the line. Great. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week show. Please go ahead, make your contribution, ask your question. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening to my loyal brothers of the loyal opposition. Good evening to the very Reverend Ferdinand Nichols and Brother Murray and the other gentlemen.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Yes, good night. Good night, my brothers. My contribution is one of amazement, but I just don't know. In no part of this budget have you heard any kind of relief for the pensioners. In no part of this so-called marathon budget, which started approximately somewhere after 3 and then somewhere after 6, the long term of the
close to 7.
Close to 7.
Have you heard any kind of relief from the taxes of the garbage and sewage tax? At no part have you heard any kind of relief for the teachers and the children, better payment, better working conditions for the nurses and doctors that leaving our shores and going elsewhere. At no part you heard anything about the reverse tax credits, but what you heard is a lot of fluff and a lot of theatrics, a lot of play on words, and just pure emptiness. This is one of the worst budget debates that I have heard a lot. I have heard many, but this one takes the cake. You hear a lot of thank yous at the beginning, a vote of thanks. I don't know why that was happening. Then there was a lot of correctiveness going on between him and the PN, correcting him at every turn. I can imagine what you guys, especially Brother Ferdinand, has to say about this. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. These people just don't get it. But they can lie and talk about the economy is good and that this is in order. Nothing is, everything is out of order. And it's up to us, the loyal opposition. And I urge Sister Marcia Weeks to get your march going rather sooner than later, you know, because we need to make them understand, because they have a problem comprehending what we out here, the people, not only on the march shore, but others are saying to them. We are tired, we are fed up. And you can't stop us from talking or saying. So I would encourage you all to continue doing the good work. And I really want to hear from, especially Glenn Murray, what is his biting, because I joined the show late, what's his biting thoughts on the so-called marathon speech that was given by a very failed speech that was given by the minister in the Ministry of Finance. I want to hear especially from what he has to say about this. I thank you, Marcia and everybody. Keep up the good work. May God bless you all, and God bless the loyal opposition. Guys, turn out tomorrow. Brother Thorne, support him, support him, support him. We got to come together as one. God bless you all. Have a blessed night.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll tell you that before I let you go ahead, Glenn, and answer the question, because I think you did tune in late because you addressed so much to do with the budget.
Yeah.
But there is going to be a march upcoming. I think that's going to be on the 22nd of March, if my mind serves me correctly. So there is a march being planned, and that march is going to be in the Holetown area, I think, on this occasion. I think it's going to be in that area. But clearly they joined a bit late, GLYNE. You had made a number of comments with regards to the budget.
But I think there's a certain ring to that phrase you just said. There's a march on the 22nd of March.
March.
March on the
22nd of
March. On the 22nd of March.
We have another caller.
Okay.
We have another caller. So hold that
Yeah.
response that we can get to that. Good afternoon, good evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Please go right ahead, ask your question, make your contribution.
I really don't want to ask no questions. I want to deal with the economists that we're supposed to have in Barbados that is dealing with this budget.
Yes, sir.
What I want to say is that what I've realized over my years of education and understanding is that the economists in Barbados has now become beggars. They haven't introduced nothing. The economists haven't introduced anything on behalf of the people of Barbados. They're always telling you about interjection from this place, interjection from the next place. What is the purpose of what are the purpose of the economists? They're supposed to come with
Don't listen to your radio or whatever it is you're listening to. You just keep right on speaking.
What I want to say is that an economist is supposed to interject the things that's supposed to happen or the purposes of the things that's supposed to come to the country. What I've found is that the people that we call economists regurgitate the things that they hear. They don't introduce. If you as the economist sell out all the things that make money and bring finance to the country and then got to go and borrow everything you need to have, what is the purpose of the economist? The old people of Barbados were the best economists. They started off with 50 cents and they end up with houses. They work for almost 3 cents and they build houses. The economist nowadays is educated, but yet they sell all the assets of the country and then turn around and tax all the people of the country. You buy a house, and after you spend $100 or $100 and something $1,000 to buy a piece of land, the economists turn around and tax you on it as though you are renting it. Why do the economists always try to take away from the people who work hard?
Well, we're going to wait to see what those economist responses are going to be to the budget. I believe there's undoubtedly going to be some responses to it, but I think you would be more or less speaking to the government more than the economists, because I know several economists who don't always agree. GLYNE, I think you would agree with that. Don't always agree with much of the presentation of ministers of finance.
Yeah, I think I begin to understand. He's frustrated. Like you say, it's the government. The economists can't impose taxation. It's the government that does that.
Yeah.
The economists and the government is supposed to have their own economists. There are economists outside of government in the society. There are economists out that careful. There was a time, I think probably what he's talking about is that there was a time in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s, where the intellectuals, the professional academic economists at careful used to get involved and engage
in this,
give a different perspective, different ideas, etc. Open your eyes, challenge the government orthodoxy, etc. I think what has happened is that there's a perception that many of these, not only economists, but other professional academics at careful do not get engaged in politics because they themselves are looking for consultancies, be on boards to get sponsorship. So they're not catering to the professional practice as it used to be. Then it's a different perspective where people are looking to see what is in it for them.
What is in it? Yeah. Caller, we want to thank you for your contribution. We have another call on the line, but thank you so very much. We appreciate you giving us the call. So we're just gonna have we got that caller on the line then, guys? Hello, good evening. This is the Marcy Week show. Welcome. Okay, we'll probably have them back. Maybe they got disconnected there for a moment. Yes, let's get back to what you were mentioning quickly there, GLYNE.
Yeah. The way the IMF is, where's person there was no relief.
We have the caller. We have the caller. Yes. Good evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week show. Please go right ahead. Ask your question or make your comment.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Ferdinand and Mr. Murray.
Good evening.
I really just call in to register my third time calling into the Marcy Weeks program. Sorry, the Marcy Weeks call-in program. I just want to first person.
Got a new name now. Thank you very much.
If it ever goes via time. So I just wanted to register that. But one thing I want to touch with Mr. Murray with regards to the Dr. Nigel Clark out of Jamaica getting this lofty role at the IMF. The statements that you have attributed to him would suggest that he has a real negative opinion of the IMF. But I remember when he got the post, it was very much celebrated in Jamaica. The Prime Minister was very elated that had occurred. And I'm also looking at a Financial Times article that it was titled "Jamaica's Journey from IMF Joke to Star Pupil is Now Complete," celebrating the fact that the views that the IMF held of Jamaica, they were of the opinion that they were going to fail, the various programs, to the point where now a Jamaican is second in command of the institution. So I find the Prime Minister's celebration and all the celebration in Jamaica when Nigel Clark got that job, and this article is at odds with the statement that you have assigned to him. Can you tell me where you got that statement?
I got that from Barbados today. I have a date. I think the 23rd. I have it written down somewhere. Where I saw it on the. I saw it on the. I think it was the. I have it on my notes. I can find it for you. But I got it from Barbados today. I wrote it out and hold on a sec. I want to got it here. I got it here. It was on the 23rd of March last year. This is March last year. But you have to understand that Nigel Clark for a regular Jamaican to become deputy managing director of the
International
IMF.
Monetary Fund. Yeah.
That is a tremendous achievement for a Caribbean person.
Caribbean,
So you celebrate it. On the other hand, to have a Jamaican right at the top, second, number 2 at the top of the IMF, could probably open doors that would benefit Jamaica. He's there to influence policy, programs, decisions, and it might work out in the long run to the betterment of Jamaica by his being there. But on the other hand, Nigel Clark is doing, don't forget, we have a reverse here, We have Dr. Kevin Green, who's governing Central Bank, came from the IMF, was financed through the Caribbean Development Bank to advise the Barbados government on our IMF programs. That's why we were able to get it so quickly done, because he was an insider. And now he's been elevated to the Central Bank governor. And I'm sure after a time he will go back to the IMF. It looks good on your CV and get another job.
I don't want to take up too much time, neither do I want to deal with Dr. Greenwich. I just want to focus on Dr. Clark, because
I have it written here in my own fine handwriting.
Can I complete, please? If that statement was made in March and he got the job in August of the same year.
No. This was March 23. He got the job in October. He got the job
24.
on the 31st of October, 2024.
He made the statement. That's the point that I'm trying to make. It would suggest that another angle to look at this is that the dim view of the IMF in the region, the statement that he made suggesting that Jamaica had a really rough time with them, puts the IMF in a bad light. So it could be too that he was being bought out, for his
he's a professional. He's trying to get a professional advancement.
No, he's leaving that he would probably be silent.
We would want to hope and pray that he wasn't bought out. We give him the benefit of the doubt, caller. We give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that was a standing statement that he made about the IMF.
I know. I was so shocked when I saw it. I wrote it down on the back of an envelope and kept it.
It's going to be interesting to see how he operates in the IMF, if he continues with the IMF programs, or if he actions that statement in future dealings with Caribbean countries.
On that regard, the IMF
has a conflict there.
The IMF has to carry out the wishes of its controllers and its investors. The American government, they're the ones who run and own and control. They have the most shares in the IMF. So the IMF basically carries out the Washington wishes. That is why you would not. Somebody mentioned about.
It's going to be important, I think, to watch how he performs as good.
Right.
How the IMF behaves, as a matter of fact, defend in
Caribbean.
See if anything changes to benefit countries.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And
thank you. Appreciate you calling. And we certainly will be keeping an eye on all of these things. Thank you so very much, caller. Don't forget 236-7000. Make your calls to us. The Marcia Week.
You haven't heard from Nigel for a while, if you want to.
Nigel, you've been listening to a lot of input here. Again, your thoughts. I know you've been digesting all of this stuff. We heard the lady calling with regard, actually 2 persons calling with regard to the matters of pension, the sewage tax, the teachers, nurses, the reverse tax credit. Quite a lot to digest.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Nichols. But I think in all of our discussions, we must be careful not to get to the level whereby we are simply spinning top in mud. All right? But on a serious note, with reference to the pensioners, I think the Barbadian society has changed to such an extent that Barbadians are exhibiting gross ingratitude to the senior citizens of this country. Barbados is what it is because of the elderly who sacrifice very often with little reward and sometimes with no reward to build this country. And to be treated in the way that we, because I'm a pensioner as well, we are treated is in gratitude and disrespect for the elderly. And we need to say to the government and all those in authority that we need to pursue or recognize that there is something called intergenerational interdependence. What do I mean? Each generation is dependent on the previous, or each new generation is dependent on the previous generation, and the previous generation is dependent on the coming generation, and we need to recognize that and give it some more prominence. There's also something called intergenerational communication.
Let me just cross you quickly, Nigel, because please remember where you are. We have another caller. And of
Okay,
course, we just want to try and get these
go
callers in
ahead.
as many as we can for the time. Just remember that you were talking about the aspect of intergenerational interdependence. And incidentally, he did touch on that today in the budget. All right. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcy Week show. Please go right ahead,
Good
make
night.
your contribution, ask your question.
Hello, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Now, I seem to watch a part of the budget, but the interesting part that I watch is I can't understand if we are so cash-strapped with all this debt and so on. The first
Mm-hmm.
thing is off and on payments that the national insurance is supposed to pay out. Where are we
Mm-hmm.
going to get this money from? That is one question. The other one is I see the lovely presenter. No, we were supposed to have an investigation into homes. And in
Yes.
the presentation of the
Yes.
budget, he was talking about homes. And he is telling us
Yes.
hope again. How
Yes.
can you present a hope project to us and selling us homes when we're supposed to have a scandal with hope, $60 million or something so like that
Yes,
there,
sir.
and we
Mm-hmm.
have no account covered. Yet, so you're going to come in a budget to present us homes to be sold by hope. You are putting more homes to be built by hope. Another question is this here. Now, he spoke also, he was telling to us digitalization, this digitalization. Now, with all of this thing going on, this cyber attack and so on, Barbados, the BRA was attacked, the hospital was attacked, and all these places. We don't have a proper cybersecurity system in place, and you are coming to tell us in a budget that we all of us must get on board with this digitalization, all departments of government. Are we idiots? Another thing is that he also spoke about the photovoltaic systems. Now we have people here who have, because these people will get a grant, these people that have these voltaic systems, that have them laying on the ground. If the capacity light and power cannot carry the load, what is the sense of we investing in all these solar panels, right? And they're laying on the ground. What are we supposed to do? You go and borrow the loan from the bank, set up a solar panels for your home, and can't get attached to the grid. What use is that to us? I will put down and listen to you all. I don't know if Mr. Murray missed that.
No. I picked up on that too. I
Thank you,
think.
thank you, caller.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
calling.
very much. Yeah, thank you for calling. Yeah, GLYNE, Nigel, I picked up on the whole project. I picked up on the digitization, and I picked up on the voltaic systems. Go ahead, GLYNE. Let me see what
Let Nigel finish this point. Then
Nigel.
I'll
Oh,
come.
yeah, yes, right, Nigel. You were talking about the intergenerational matter, and I mentioned to you that he actually did touch on it when he was treating to the matter of the transference of property
Land
within
and whatnot.
families and so on. And he talked about, I would use the word eradicating the transfer tax, for gifts and so on from I guess parents to children and so on. So he did make mention of that intergenerational interdependence, maybe in a slightly different language.
Sorry?
Yeah, I said he did make mention of that type of a system, you know, in his own way, in terms of the transfer of property and
Not
not
only,
having.
not only, I'm not restricting it to the transfer of property, but I could pay some attention to that.
Mhm.
But I am what I am today because as a child growing up, my closest and dearest friends were people in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I learned so much as a child from the older generation. I learned how to care for people. I learned how to manage and so on and so forth. You know, so we in Barbados have reached the stage now whereby we're just ignoring the senior citizens. But Barbados, and we must never fail to remind the young people that Barbados is what it is because of the elderly, and that they need to pay attention to the elderly and the government itself, you know, and pensioners need protection. We also have, and
Go ahead, Nigel. I need to make a point. While you're at it, I agree with that. The elderly, the seniors need attention. And I want to pick up on a point, maybe one of the callers, that there was little or no relief in the budget for the elderly.
For the elderly, yes.
Remember, you are in an IMF program. There's no giveaways. There's not about ease and make it better. You pay the bills, you pay the interest, you privatize everything like they probably do with CBC because you are supposed to provide work and opportunities for invest in the same private sector. So there's no giveaway as would happen in the socialist model. That is why you're having what is happening now in the United States. And a threat of invasion on Medicaid, that is anathema to the people who run the IMF and the people of that orientation.
You know, GLYNE, today he did he spoke to this matter. You know, he pontificated on the loans and the repayments. I don't know if you heard that segment where he was. You know, I am looking at the Statista.com statistics with relevance to the Barbados national debt from 2019 to 2029, and their projections from 2025 to 2029 is that Barbados will be running a debt service of 7.51 billion in 25, 7.46 in 26, 7.41 in 27, 7.38 in 28, and 7.28 billion US dollars in debt. And I found it rather I once heard Richie Haynes say, and I don't know if you would recall when he was Minister of Finance, GLYNE, he made the comments that you can make numbers say anything you want, or something along that nature. But I heard him.
There's a saying which goes, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
And statistics. That was it.
Damn
lies, and statistics.
Right.
And he was talking about. We took this loan, but we paid back so much. And in instances, he was actually paying back more than the loan. But yet,
we are still in debt.
We are still in debt
for the foreseeable future.
But you're talking 15 billion Barbados dollars, GLYNE, not 15 million.
You can only pay that at the expense of the development of the country, the people.
Correct.
The people will be less well off in order to pay those bills. It's happening now. That's why you're not getting any wage increases. Everything is cut back in order to meet the budget and meet the targets of the. We are no longer on. We have been recolonized by fall into the hands of the IMF for this kind of program. All the other prime ministers have avoided that. But this one decided that this was the best game in town, and it is not. We are not seeing the benefits yet. 8 years almost.
The caller referenced the HOPE project, if my mind serves me correctly. 3 areas he mentioned: digitization, voltaic systems, and the HOPE project. how can the minister talk about more homes, and we're dealing with a division at the voltaic system as well, GLYNE? How people have
Listen,
spent a lot of money here.
let me tell you, one of my most humiliating times recently is when I saw Mr. Schaaf, the man who's chairman of Hall chairman of Hope, sitting in the well of Parliament trying to explain something that the minister couldn't or would not explain. Remember, the minister is making the leading officer had raised this question about the question of, I think it's he's talking about a program of payment where he talking about where the money came from. What is a term that Minister Sutherland was stressing on. He was stressing on about the technical or the industrial policy or something. So, and I said, so what is this industrial policy? And where Mr. Schaaf, who was said very little, like he didn't know very much, when he said all it was, or Mr. Sutherland was saying, they employ this industrial policy, and then they're going to leverage and go to the bank and leverage the money from the commercial banks, the billions. But how you do not leverage other people's money? All he was saying is, all this industrial policy was saying is that their payment scheme, right? Listen, language carefully. Their payment scheme was to direct the people who want to build the house, borrow the money from the bank. In other words, NHC has no money now to lend. NHC has been reduced to design, distribute, and repair. They're no longer build houses from the ground up, from starting up. That is done. So they were the minister was just masking that and just saying about this industrial policy. It only made sense when Mr. Schaaf said it will be you you direct the applicant from the NHC to the commercial banks to get the loan, and the minister said they are leveraging the money of the commercial bank, which they don't own. Smoke and mirrors, words like the digitalization, all those fancy language and transformation, language labels, gimmicks all the time. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Nigel. Mr.
Yes.
Nigel, your thoughts here.
Well, all that we are discussing can be summed up in one simple statement. We need to change the system of governance. This system of governance is not working in our favor or in our best interest. We need to interrogate our system of governance, and as a nation, as people, we need to come together and develop a constitution. But more importantly, I want to ask, what is our vision of ourselves individually and as a nation? And can we draw anything from the mirror image speech that the Right Excellent Errol Barrow gave? I was there when he gave it. I was up front. We have lost our way as a nation. We have no vision of who we are. We don't know where we are going.
Nigeria, with all due respect, you sure that the nation has lost it or the government has lost it? Owen Arthur said when he said the BF has lost its way and it's lost its soul.
Yes.
So it might be the government and their policies and their way of government rather than Barbados as an entity. If it were Barbados, people like you and I and Marcel Shaw would not exist.
No, I
see what I mean?
I would have to agree with it. I would have to agree with you there, GLYNE, and Nigel, because our direction seemed to have gone off tracks from the time Arthur left office, to be brutally frank. And he warned us. He warned us that he warned us that you know, this was it was happening. The party itself has lost its soul. It's lost its direction. And to be honest, when I listened to the budget this evening, and I observe the government, I'm going to say the government and not just the prime minister, because there are 28 other persons that are complicit in the matter. The government seems not to have a plan. And it seems as though they're simply pulling cats out of the hat, so to speak.
Freddie, what you're saying now is a total rejection and a repudiation of the philosophy, the political and social philosophy on which Barbados was found. Practically Granny Adams, Alvar, Thomas, everybody up to this government. You hear the prime minister or anybody, her government talk about democratic socialism or social democracy?
Mm-hmm.
No, they have taken us back. This government has taken us back into the hands of what we in Barbados call the conservatives. I'm sure Nigel knows that term, the money class who dominate the plantocracy, the business sector. And I understand it because the prime minister I'm a product of my socialization in Chabagat, Spooners, and that neighborhood. Everybody's a part of their own upbringing. She grew up in a family where her grandfather, Edie Molly, was a conservative. He was the mouthpiece of the conservative. It was the Barbados Electoral Association, then became the Barbados National Party, and then became the Motley team. That was the personification, the representation of the conservative. We have gone right back to where we were before before the BLP and the reform. So that is why you're not hearing where there was a dependency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where people were encouraged to weigh on the government or weigh on the city council. I know I was a reporter. I used to go down there. I interviewed her grandfather, everything. We had our differences also about things. So I'm saying that what we're saying now is that do no longer expect to see from this government what we had grown accustomed to since 1937. Where governments were supposed to make life better for our people, improve this, give the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That is not, you have to pay bills, break for yourself, and you look after yourself. If you ain't got it, too bad. That's not our responsibility. So they're not looking after older people. You know, if you do it, you do it at the expense of something else. All right? If you want to give them, sure, but you have to meet our targets, and you have to drop something if you want to do certain things that they're not like. But we are in the hands of the IMF. Remember that. Don't expect any latitude, any giveaways. We are tight ship they have to run to please the IMF.
And it is the government that put us there in the hands of the IMF.
Right. That's right.
And we, the people, we are dissatisfied. We are unhappy with what the government is doing. Okay? And the position that the government has placed us. And therefore, we have a moral obligation to remove them.
By what means, before an election or before then? By what means can you remove them outside of the election?
Given the devastation that the government is dumping on Barbadians, and given the consequences for multiple generations down the road, I think that we, the citizens, should and must do whatever is necessary
For
to get rid
example,
of this government.
by what means? Give me some examples so I can begin to think along your lines.
The people will decide.
Oh, like at the election.
We, the nation, must decide what means by which we are going
in Nigeria, we have a well-established system of changing governments. A well-established. We do not want to encourage any chaos and confusion.
No.
Okay. The system has worked for us since 1937, and we should improve it, amend it. But I think we have to be clear in our minds that we are foremost believe in democracy, where you change governments by the ballot and not the bullet. And I do not want
to talk about the bullet.
Well,
yeah, but let me jump in here.
I'm trying to raise any doubt in anybody. by the ballot, by votes at
Yep.
election time.
Let me
That's
jump
what
in
the
here. Let me
subscription.
jump in here very quickly, because here's the thing. We got just a couple of minutes left. Just keeping my eyes out for any callers. But let me jump in here very quickly. We have an opportunity now with the drafting of the new Republic Constitution. If there is going to be any amendments, changes, additions, or whatever, the people have the opportunity now in the town hall meetings and whatever they care to call them, to come out and place their recommendations to the committee responsible for the drafting of the new constitution. I myself have indicated, number one, fixed election dates. Now that would mean that apart from any other factor, if a government is failing, you can't do anything for the fixed period of time, because that would be the legal process. The second thing, Glenn, I had suggested, and I think it was Ralph that said to me that it was a cumbersome aspect. The aspect of if the president is still in position, the aspect of accumulating a certain number of signatures.
Ferdinand has been misused and abused all over the world.
Yeah.
That's a process that has been managed very carefully. Otherwise, it could cause confusion and abuse and whatnot.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I'm thinking that some provision has to be made in terms of when we talk about the people. Our system right now actually is the people. The people make that decision every 5 years. What I find concerning is when a prime minister can just up and willy-nilly call an election. But I think we have another caller on the line. So let me welcome them. This will probably be our final caller for the night. Good evening and welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go ahead, make your contribution, ask your question.
Dr. Ferdinand, is Adrian Hines. I called earlier and I'm calling again. I just wanted to help out Mr. Newton in the thoughts that he's expressing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem really is the system. And we need to make changes to it. We can do so peacefully within the realms of what is already there with regards to elections. Now, the reason why I say the system is the problem is the vast majority of Barbadians who no longer vote, who walk away from the electoral process, right? You poll any number of them, they will tell you in very simple terms that there's no, in their opinion, there's no difference between the B's and the D's. So they're done with voting. That's their way of signaling their dissatisfaction with politics in Barbados, which is wrong, because in a first past the post system, right, a representative could go in a constituency of 8,000 people and only 3 people vote, 2 for the winning guy and 1 for the other, and he gets to exercise, or she gets to exercise, all the power. When 7,000 people have disenfranchised themselves, that's not democracy. So I think the thing is that what Mr. Newton is suggesting is that we have to inform ourselves of the deficiencies in our current system and what needs to be done to correct them, and then market that to the 60% or so of Barbadians who have walked away from the process. Market it to any group of people in the political class bringing themselves together as a political party, seeking those votes. Will lead this exercise in education on the system of government or electoral process, what Westminster means, how it's working here, how it works in comparison to, let's say, Singapore for that matter, or Trinidad, or Canada. All of these countries have different interpretations and adaptations of Westminster, and they have some elements of it that are needed in Barbados and that I think will help to bring those people back to the electoral process so that we can get a government that is closer to what a majority of the people truly wants, right? Now, I can speak at length about why Westminster is not really suited for a republic. It really isn't. But, I always say this, Ezra Allen stated that prime ministers in the Westminster system have powers akin to those that ancient monarchs have, right? And that led me to reverse what Walter Bagshot said. Walter Bagshot said when, after the Glorious Revolution in England, where England became a constitutional monarchy, meaning that they took the power away, the royal prerogative away from the monarchs and gave it to the prime minister and the cabinet. He said that a republic has insinuated itself beneath the folds of the monarchy. He said that. That was back in the 18th century when he said that, right?
But sir, you'd admit that
systems, right? It's that a monarch or a monarchy or a type of monarchy has insinuated itself beneath the folds of the republic. When you have a system that supposedly is a representative democracy, as Barbados now tells itself, that has an office of prime minister that no one voted for, that has the amount of power that is Dralian akin to that of Asian monarchs, that is a problem. Because you have the potential for the occupant of that office to run the gamut of being a morally upright leader and do things in accordance with the people's wishes, or one who goes to the extreme and use all of the power legally, but not necessarily in a way that brings us closer to progress and enfranchisement of the number of people, which a lot of people will say is what is currently happening. So Mr. Newton is correct. The system needs changes.
Sir,
just hold a minute, GLYNE. Let him finish. Go ahead.
Singapore has the Westminster system, and the political party since 1965 is the same party that's in power today. It's essentially a one-party state, right? But what they have done is added to their constitution a requirement that there must always be opposition, irrespective of the electoral outcome. There must always be an opposition. Here in Canada, right? Canada just elected a man to be prime minister temporarily, who's not even a member of cabinet. These are things that we can do.
Member of Parliament.
Westminster in England has Prime Minister Speaks. Trinidad does it, where you get to question the person that has all of this power, the Prime Minister. We don't do that in Barbados. These are things that can be done within the current system, right? To bring accountability and transparency and integrity to the system. And by their so doing, increasing the confidence that people will have in the system. That's not what we need. We only have a minority government, and it's not serving anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Murray.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Appreciate you calling in, and you can always follow the response Mr. Murray is going to give. We are at 10:04. That would be our final call. So, GLYNE, your response.
I am in no way insensitive to deficiencies in the system.
Mm-hmm.
The system has not been perfect. Even the system in Singapore has evolved. It was not original. They made adaptation from time to time. Barbados is in need of adaptation and whatever. Bring me some proposals. Give me some ideas. I don't want generalizations. Let me know what would fit the Barbados circumstances, the Barbados political culture, the Barbados personality, or ideas of the future. And I look forward to Dr. Hines, who is supposed to be candidate for St. Thomas, or public candidate. If it's that him, I look forward to him expounding on this in the next election and convince me of his theories, of his proposals, and I'm willing to give it due consideration. But tell me something more than generalizations.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Adrian is that Hines, but one of the things I will say, GLYNE, that one of the things I have admired with this is my opinion, that I've admired with the U.S. system, is that the people choose Congress, the people choose Senate, and the people choose the president. That you and I know.
The people choose. The people the people vote for the president, and then there's an electoral college that intervenes.
Yes,
that frustrates
right.
the will of the people. So there you are.
Right, but we don't have to necessarily incorporate all of those type of things. But the point I'm making here is that in those three instances, the people decide. Now, prime minister is chosen from among the members of parliament, so you may get a prime minister who you may vote for, or a person who is prime minister you did not vote for. And so, my take on this, on the what you call it, the amendments or the draft, is let the people, when that ballot comes out, you know, for St. Michael's, South Central, or wherever it is, let it come out with the person to be chosen for the Senate, person to be chosen for the Parliament, and the person to be chosen for the Prime Minister, or whatever that leadership position. That is my view.
Put the system to the people, let the people decide what they want.
Yeah, let the people decide what they want. That to me is the way to do it. Well, listen, gentlemen, we've had a hectic night, a nice night. I'm absolutely thrilled with any disagreements, because one of the things I'm happy with is the conversation that we can have. Thankfully, we are not woke. And I know there's some people who have their perspectives where I'm concerned with woke, but I stand by what I believe. We have the ability to disagree agreeably. You know, I'm watching some absolute rubbish in the United States at the moment, where the decorum, decency, demeanor, and so on of the highest offices on all sides, and I'll go across it on all sides.
Yeah. Before you go further, if I may just make one, let me apologize. When you said Adrian Hines, I don't remember who it is. That's a frequent contributor to the program.
Here. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to in any way impugn anything negative towards that, but I would also like to engage our Adrian or of the program in further discussion on these matters in time to come.
You're right, and it would be lovely. He's made some tremendous, and Adrian, I will say this, you know, he's made some tremendous contributions that I've watched in the chat, and you know, we put up a number of them and that type of thing here, and we are very, very happy. I mean, I know there's sometimes we have people on here who I know are supporters of the government. And we are an open platform. We welcome, and you know, Nigel, I have thrown out the challenge, and I think Marcia has done that as well, to any government minister or any member of the government to come on the show and interact with us just as you all have. I don't think any of them have had the intestinal fortitude to take us up on it as yet. But that is regrettable. We've had the leader of the opposition on, not because we are Democratic Labour Party supporter people, but we have invited him. He has come. We've invited the government. Nobody has turned up. If you want to be heard here, turn up. It's as simple as that.
And I look forward to another strong performance tomorrow for the leader of the opposition, and some encouraging and enlightening debate for the rest of the budget period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you that I expect the Prime Minister to close out the debate.
Yes,
Nigel?
Yes. 2 seconds. It is regrettable that whenever we try to analyze our system of governance and make changes or bring about change, it is regrettable that people often think that you are instigating a riot, you want to bring out guns and all nonsense. We don't have to do that. We just need.
I feel you're joking at me, but I did not intend that. You said by whatever means or something. So I just want to make sure to clarify that. So please don't.
No, I'm not joking at anybody. I'm not joking at anybody. I get those comments up to yesterday. I got a similar comment. Okay, up to yesterday. But we honestly need to look at ourselves, discover our vision, our mission, recreate our image, and build a country for future generations of Black Barbadians.
Agreed. And it's going to be interesting to see what Mr. Thorne presents, and I don't mean just in case of in the matter of the budget. I mean presents as an alternative to the government with regards to many of these things. And I'm sure he listens to the show, and I know that a lot of the things we are sharing here, he has taken into consideration. All right, so thank you so very much, GLYNE always a joy for me to share the night with you. Nigel, a joy to share the night
Thank
with
you, my
you.
friend.
You know, I would feel so lonely if it was just me. So,
All right, my friend. Good night,
Okay.
Nigel.
but
night.
great to have all of you here tonight. Thank you, loyal opposition, for your presence. We could not have done it without you. Thank you all for your calls and your comments. We see all of them. It's just impossible to carry all of them, but thank you so very much for helping to keep us on our toes as well. And we really appreciate. Thank you, Dave, for all of your assistance in the background. And Marcia as well as the producer of the program. They're keeping the calls and keeping us on our toes. We appreciate all of you. God bless you.
Good
Have
night.
a great evening
Same
and
to you.
good night.
Until next time. Good night.
Yes, sir. God bless.
Good night.
Dave,
Good night.
take us out, Dave.
I'm listening for the music.
Yeah, we're not hearing any audio, Dave. We're not hearing any audio. So you might have to restart it and check the audio.
Well, I am hearing.
You're not me.
Me neither. Are you hearing Nigel?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Is it music or speech? Nigel, are you hearing music or speech?
Yes. No, I'm not muted. I am hearing.
One common intention is for a better life in the region.
Caribbean man. Black Sally.
And we children. That must be
Black
the
Sally.
intention of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
I saw him sing that live in Cuba in 1979. It was terrific.
You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going on for a Carifta with a true West Indian flavor. But since Carifta started running, morning, noon, and night, all I hearing is just money speech, them prime ministers giving. But I say no set of money, good for my unity. Talk of all your people need their identity like one race from the same place that make the same trip on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is wasting time. The whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we go in. That's why someone become the whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we
Well, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much. God bless. And next time we'll have to get one of GLYNE's songs because I think he was a Calypsonian as well. So good night to you, Nigel. Good night, loyal opposition. God bless. Bye bye.
Good night. Good night.